everybody. Welcome to the deepest dive on Alan Wake 2, the best, most thorough discussion about Remedy's new game on the internet. This is MinnMax, place about games, friends, getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here, joined by Leo Vader.
Hello, yes.
Hello, yes, thank you. We're joined by Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
Sarah, your intro video for like the reveal thing for the deepest dive in Alan Wake, that was effort. That looked like
that was art.
North of 2 hours going into that.
I don't know anything about Alan Wake. That was all like just me guessing, and I really hate how like it keeps coming true the more I play the game. I feel like I accidentally manifested it. Yeah, I know nothing about Alan Wake or any of the Remedy universes.
Well, Sarah's coming to us and streaming to us from the dark place today. We're also joined by Haley McLean.
Hello, I can't wait.
The person who knows everything about Alan Wake. Okay.
I was in Haley's stream, literally asking her questions while she was streaming.
In Haley is a funny word. Haley, okay, you just played through all of Alan Wake. You just played through all of Control. Like, no one is better primed for the deepest dive in Alan Wake 2 than you. So we're going to be looking to you, but I just want you to know, zero pressure. Sit back. Okay. Look, everyone's going to get stuff wrong. It's not for us to get right. It's for people on Patreon to correct us about. So it's
Should I actually, everybody? Should I be that commenter in advance?
I guess, yeah, that's your role. Yeah, you have to be the threshold to some extent. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Haley McLean, thank you for being here. Threshold. We're also joined.
I know. I was just gonna say, was that on purpose? Because good job.
Oh God, Jeff Arkifoff is also here.
That's me.
All right, raring to go. This is a biggie, everybody. This conversation is covering roughly the first third of Alan Wake 2. So we will be talking about everything in this game up through, okay, I guess it's chronological at this point, up through Alan Wake's third chapter, which is called The Haunting. So the prologue, Saga's...
It's called Haunted.
Haunted.
Just don't want anybody to get confused.
Thank you.
Well, Leo, you're taking my job. That's my job.
So Saga's first 2 chapters, the prologue obviously as well, and then Alan Wake's first 3 chapters. We're not spoiling anything beyond that because none of us have played anything beyond that because this is the deepest dive, everybody. It's a whole game club format. A game like this, you gotta savor. Right when I started this game, it's like, okay. Now I see why Jacob Geller was so excited for us to do this for the deepest dive, because like this is a game worthy of unpacking. It's a shame to gloss over what Remedy has put together with Alan Wake 2. So we really need to give this game the discussion it deserves. That is what the deepest dive is all about, and it exists because of you watching. Thank you for sharing it online. You can always subscribe to MinnMax's YouTube channel. We appreciate that. But it super duper exists because of folks over at Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you support us at any tier, even the $2 tier, you can submit comments for us to read in the future discussions for Alan Wake 2 and the deepest dive. If you notice us getting anything wrong, don't jump into the YouTube comments like a schlub. You say, I will go to Patreon and I will submit my comment there. And that is actually impacting the show because they'll read it on the show. Also, you can unlock the podcast version of the deepest dives, all of our previous deepest dives, by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. There's a reason other gaming outlets don't do this format. It's not realistic. It's not wise financially. The only way it makes sense is if people like you appreciate it and then go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And as a bonus thank you to everybody for supporting the deepest dive format, the fine folks over at Night School Studios, they are giving away a free copy of Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. So if you support MinnMax on Patreon at any tier, even that $2 tier, and you do it before November 2nd, so we're talking the 31st of October, we're talking November 1st, you jump in there, support us at any tier on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. We will send you a Steam code for Oxenfree 2 via the Patreon DM messaging system. So expect that if you go over there and support us on Patreon. We're talking about what's a good game we could do a giveaway for the community. And Leo, you're like, oh, Oxenfree 2, it's spooky, narrative focused, it's exactly in the same wheelhouse as Alan Wake. And then we reached out to them and they were kind enough to offer a bunch of codes. So we have 200 codes to give away. So yeah, Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. Check it out, everybody. And you can get a free Steam code by supporting MinnMax on Patreon. So we greatly appreciate it. Deepest dive.
Or join the Twitch chat live to say that it actually is called Haunting. And I corrected you for no reason, like an ass.
All right.
Amazing.
Let's get to the deepest dive, everybody. Over on Patreon, people submitted hundreds and hundreds of comments. Thanks to everybody who submitted stuff. Thanks to everybody in the MinnMax community who's playing along with us. Greatly appreciate it. Haley, on this here show, The Deepest Dive, we like to kick things off with a little game we play called Alan Wake 2. No, a little game we play called Most Common Comment. What do you think the most amount of people wrote in about? What was the most frequent thing that came up from hundreds of people typing in comments about Alan Wake 2's first third?
I don't know if it's too broad, but connections to other Remedy games?
Connections to other
If that
Remedy
is too broad,
games.
I'll say Tim Breaker specifically.
Okay, interesting. Hey, Haley, what do you think?
I think probably that, or maybe the Doctor or the Mr. Door sequence, the live action sequence. Some comments about that sequence because that was an awesome sequence.
Okay, the Mr. Door late night stuff. Jeffem, what do you think? Most common comment?
I'm gonna go with you got Max Payne in my Alan Wake 2.
Okay, Sarah Podzorski.
Naked Man.
Honestly, this is the most correct, most common comment has ever been. Naked Man came up, I think, second most common in there.
Dang it.
Let's see. People on Twitch are screaming Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is probably number 3 for a lot of people to be like, hey, wait a minute. This is a Twin Peaks reference. Let's see. A lot of people talking about the Mind Place, pros, cons, all that fun stuff. But yeah, the number one most common comment, Leo, you were right. It's connections to other Remedy games / just a lot of people talking about control references in here.
Nice.
Okay, this game is damn cool, but also it has amazed me so much, just like the messaging from Remedy and how important that idea of a shared universe is. Like, and now Remedy's doing it better than any other video game studio.
Yes.
I'm trying to think, but just like the energy from the community just coming through for the amount of comments that people are submitting here, like we are so ready for this. People were ready to see it from the, Marvel's gaming side, and that's barely heating up a little bit, you know what I mean? But it just feels like Remedy is jumping in there, and it's like everyone's ready to connect the dots in our own mind place, and Remedy is just nailing it. Haley, Alan Wake 2, you're coming in the hottest. What do you think about the first third of this thing?
I mean, the fact I have butterflies thinking about how much I like this game. I love this game. And I honestly sometimes just sit and think about it for a long time to try to because it's one of those pieces of media that I can tell is so purposeful, and they've tried so hard to do something very specific, and I think they did it really well, that sometimes I'm like, was this on purpose, or did they just and then and I'm reading too much into it and making my own conclusions thinking it's something it's not.
Like what?
But
do you got?
I think,
is there a specific thing that's haunted you?
Yeah. Yes, and it's something and I think that's the point of Remedy's storytelling is the fact that I find it hard to say what I like the most about it, because the point is it's so confusing, but there's a thread line that makes it meaningful. And I came up with a phrase, but I don't want to become the next ludonarrative dissonance person.
Oh, God.
But I did come up with a phrase, mixed media meta-narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think this
that's a good
game,
one. Patent that, Ben. Put that on the Twitter.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
ASAP.
I think this game combines different media in the craziest way possible, and then also makes that the narrative element that the story's based on.
Yeah.
So then everything they do that's intermediary feels meta-narrative, and then it expounds from there. And this time around, they have so it's books, it's games, it's film, and now it's also live performances. So that's why I said mixed media and not multimedia, because mixed media is when you have live performances in media, and multimedia is just media. So this has the actors playing the characters. And then I think that's why I really like the Mr. Door, not to jump ahead, but that's why I really like the Mr. Door sequence, is because when Sam Lake is there playing Max Payne, but he's not Max Payne, but they call him Sam, but he's also Alex Casey. And then in the past, but just the face. And if you know enough about the Remedy connected universe, they're also kind of tongue-in-cheeky hinting about their studio in of itself, and the history behind the studio.
It's bananas.
Because Sam Lake said on record before that Alan Wake is like Remedy, and his writings are like Remedy's games, and that's how he views that relationship. So then the fact that that's now nestled in this where he's sitting on a couch with his character as this other character he plays as a new character in the game, voicing Max Payne.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And
it's
that
perfect.
could be muddled and it could be gross. And I'd be like, blech, too much. But it's not too much. I know exactly what they mean and they do it perfect. And I was like, I had to like, if you go watch my stream, I like put down my controller and I'm like, oh, and I just think about it for a few minutes because I think that's so masterful and no other game studio's ever done this.
Yeah.
It's amazed me.
I found myself like second guessing how impactful the live action being interwoven in this game, where it's like, why do video games suddenly feel so much more like an artistic triumph when they just incorporate other dashes of other mediums? Like, is that insulting to video games? But I do just think it's so much more interesting, and it is, I guess, just making it this soup of all different media together. It just makes it so much more bizarre to think about.
We love art on art on
better.
art. And are those original songs between the chapters?
Yes, as far as I
Yeah.
understand.
Amazing. I love those.
And the songs talk about past games and sometimes are sung by past characters that also have roles in other games as other characters. It's everything you could think of. You could pick like a scab and there's more underneath. It's nuts.
It's like a fun
it's good.
scab picking, Sarah. It's your greatest fantasy. Drake H writes in and says, I wanted to talk about the chapter ending songs. These aren't just licensed songs that Remedy found and retrofitted into the game. They're all original songs created by Finnish musicians for Alan Wake 2 based on poetry Sam Lake provided for reference. And so far, they are awesome. There's a great making of the music video on Remedy's YouTube channel. So this is a video game about a writer that uses live action film, is formatted like a TV show, and has an entirely original soundtrack. If you're going to have a meta-narrative on the creative process and how a creator's work influences the lives of those around them, it's only fitting you include every form of modern media. Like exactly what you're talking about. Let's see. Luca A. says, we need to talk about the music. One of my favorite parts of Alan Wake / Control is the cross-media content, be it songs from actual bands or live action videos. You can't help but stare at grinning. But the music here is something else. I recall the goosebumps I had when War started playing in a random hut in Alan Wake 1, and I feel like I had that same feeling several times already. Saga standing in a motel room waiting for me to finish listening to the next song on the radio. It's all just so good.
Yeah, that's something that gives me butterflies about this game, is those songs in between the chapters. It just resonates with me personally because I'm always like, I hate that a new episode starts 2 seconds after the episode ends on whatever streaming service, every single one. And I really wish we had more time to like absorb what we just consumed. And this is like these perfect little gaps where there's not much to look at. You kind of just read the subtitles along with the songs, and they're like thematically relevant. So you're still kind of just processing where you're at in the story currently. I feel like that's such an awesome touch and one of those really specific things that I can't picture any other studio doing.
Yeah, it feels like a very old school kind of experience. Like I haven't sat down and just listened to a song and looked at the lyrics for many years. And it's like, every time a chapter ends, I go to my phone to start taking notes, but then I just put it down and just listen to the song and, read along with the words and try and figure out, like how it ties back to that chapter and foreshadowing whatever comes with. It's such a special and unique thing to this game. And it gives each chapter such a good and clear bookmark that has been one of the highlights for me as well.
Yeah, Joseph Coleman writes over there on Patreon. I had a difficult time at the very end of chapter 2, having to replay it several times. And then when the chapter end song, Wide Awake, dropped the lyric, quote, "Oh, I died like a million times," I burst out laughing. One of the superlative vibes I'm getting from this game is that Remedy knows exactly what they're doing, so I can't even fault the difficulty spike here. Yeah, Haley, you talked about like just reading too much into what Remedy is doing and finding genius and stuff and these connections and stuff. I had a similar experience to that where I got up in my head, and this is a lot of just the video editor and me talking, but I was thinking so much about this, like, God, what an interesting, unique choice. But it's for the title screen. When Alan Wake 2 just boosh, boosh, boosh pops on the top. Mm-hmm. I'm playing on Xbox, and so it was popping up, but the word would pop on the screen, and then when it would disappear, like the audio hit would come in. And I was like, just as an editor, timing-wise, that is such a weird idea. But then there was a cutscene after that, and every other cutscene after that, like the voices were always a little bit off during the cutscenes. So it actually wasn't their choice at all, but I was just projecting brilliance. I'm like, who would ever think of that? Like when the title disappears, that's when the music had happened.
Like,
Genius,
I get
Remedy,
it.
genius.
I get it.
Yeah, and then it turns out I did not get it. I just need to eventually download a patch for the Xbox version of the
That
game.
font though, the fonts though.
That was it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Turns out when it hits with the music at the same time, that's actually even better.
That's kind of how it's typically designed, yeah.
Not as unique, a bit contrived, but
When the word Alan popped up with the big music thud, I said out loud, uncontrollably, I said, yes.
Roov Go says, best title reveal of all time. Yeah, Leo, what's your experience overall for this chunk of the game?
I was marginally hyped. I wasn't hyped out of my ass because by the end of Control, I was a little tired of it.
Yeah.
Despite everything I liked about it, the world building, incredible, 20 out of 10. And this is like those elements I liked, and the combat is working for me a lot better. It's like I vibe with the horror theme more than I did the kind of action combat theme. I'm more in love with it than I expected to be for sure right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, as somebody who also joined me for the deepest dive of Resident Evil 4 early this year, do you have a similar thing where like I keep waiting for it to get into like a Resident Evil 4 pacing, even like a Resident Evil 2 pacing, and so far it's just like, we're not that game. Maybe we are later, but as of now, it's just like collect some ammo, shoot some shadows, shine a flashlight, and keep moving.
So, especially that first boss battle, it feels so similar to Resident Evil though. Like they run around in a circle and pick up your junk, and then keep running around in a circle and like shooting behind you. That felt like very Resident Evil. But the thing that like I'm struggling with is like not having. I know there's like a melee attack, but like not having that like Resident Evil knife when something gets really close to you, and the fact that the enemies can teleport has really been throwing me off. Like the fact that they can just go like up right in your face. Yeah. I can't handle that. Like, please keep your distance.
I want to have some logic. You can be infected with a T virus, whatever, but like you need to move in a coherent way. But I think that's also the coolest stuff is like, especially the way the enemies look for like the Alan Wake sections, where they're all so distorted that they could move any which way and it would still be reasonable within the world of this game. Like that Alan Wake section, it really does feel like playing through a nightmare better than any game I've ever experienced before. It's just everything's so distorted and strange. It's amazing.
And the fact, I don't know if there's something I'm missing about the enemies, and we're in the Alan section, so maybe we're jumping too far ahead, but the shadows, some of them are real enemies and some of them aren't. And you can waste your flashlight burning them all away, or you can try and like call their bluff and just be ready to dodge.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's such a good scary element. It's so much, there's more to it than just being survival combat.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Boondock Bandit, they say, how does flashlight fighting the shadow figures compare to the original Alan Wake? I didn't get around to playing the first game. I remember Kyle and Leo defending it. I didn't like it as Saga, but I liked it a lot as Alan Wake. At some point, I realized not all the shadow figures are bad, so watching them slow walk / teleport to you as you figure out if it's worth wasting a battery or not was extremely tense. Is there a real logic? Do they look different when they're going to attack? Or is it just if they're saying, Alan Wake, then it's like, all right, I guess you guys are cool?
If they have a crowbar, they're almost always real. Also real, who knows?
Flashlightable, weird, okay.
Flashlightable. And I think that what they're trying to say there is like, because Alan is in the dark place, he's writing himself out of the situation. So some of those might be him, and then some of them might also be the dark place or the dark presence. So he doesn't know which ones are real and which ones are the dark presence. Like, okay, here I come, I'm gonna get ya. Or if he's like, he tried to escape the dark presence and like, it's not actually the dark presence like there. It's like his envisioning of it as the author of the story he's trapped in. And then the dark presence will sneak in and attack him also. Whereas with Saga, it's just a straight up dark presence is like near her and she's fighting it.
Okay. Here's a broad question for you, Haley. As somebody who played the first hour and a half of Alan Wake 1, is this a puzzle we can figure out? Is like, okay, so you're playing even this chunk of the game. It's like, all right, got it. I understand the structure. I understand what's happening here. It's not going to be kind of a nebulous dream world moving on. You get the idea?
Yes and no. Like, I think part of Remedy's charm in its storytelling is like, you just need to let go and let the story happen at you. And I get why some people don't like that. And it's like, I'm confused. I don't like this. Like, I'm bouncing off because it's like, I just don't like this feeling. Yeah. But I think what they do is they're kind of like, it's like trust me vibes. Like, yes, we're throwing a lot of words at you, like especially Control had so many words, like object of power, AWE events, thresholds, like all this like words, and you have to like remember them all. And you're like, but I think it differs a bit with Alan Wake because they are good at tying together the fun gameplay between those confusing elements. So you're like, okay, well, I'm a bit confused. Like even people who don't like that feeling, I don't mind it personally. Like I'm like, okay, I'm confused. Let's keep going. Like mystery, let's solve it. But some people, at least they have the fun gameplay. It's like, all right, I'm a bit confused. I don't love this feeling, but let's keep playing because the shooting's fun. Or like with Control, you just feel like a god in that game because it has like the best powers ever. So you're like, at least I can fly and just come down the ground and destroy everybody. I'll keep going. And then by the end of it, they try to, it's almost like they use a lot of like simile and metaphor to try to like at certain times be like the writing is my escape and the book is the dark place. And like they'll say very explicitly what they mean, but it's very quick and like in a thought. And I think they're trying to be like, okay, we're being too confusing. Make Alan say this a couple times. And then it's like, okay. And you kind of think of that and then let that carry you through to the next section.
Right.
But I think it is confusing, but I think part of the fun too is like no one's answer is entirely right. Like there's a very famous closing line to Alan Wake 1 that I'm assuming it's fine to spoil Alan Wake 1.
Yeah, it's not a lake, it's an ocean.
Yeah, it's not a lake, it's an ocean. And then everyone was like, what the heck for 10 years? Like, what does that mean? And they're very tongue-in-cheeky in this. Like, they mention lakes and oceans a bunch in this. But the fun in that line, and that was kind of the point of that game, is like, what? Like, where is he? I don't know. Like, he doesn't know. He's trapped. He's trapped in this liminal space between reality, and it sucks. That's kind of all you're supposed to take from it. We're not supposed to know the place he's in. It's like, he's trapped. That's too bad. And
but he's in a scary place that sucks.
But I feel like they kind
that's the easiest way with human language to describe it. That's all he could do.
They kind of get to that. I mean, talking about like, putting it on a platter for folks after like Mr. Door makes that cheeky reference. I'm like, you left us hanging with it's not a lake, it's an ocean. What is that? We talk about a cliffhanger, which is a great moment. But then they have that moment too, where they say that like, oh, it was an ocean of darkness. I think Alan at some point says it like, just think about it that way, everybody. I meant an ocean of darkness. Moving on. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who is this? Jonathan Valdez writes over on Patreon. This part has confirmed Remedy is my favorite Western developer. Casper Darling will always put a smile on my face. I really appreciate how heavily they are making previous games matter. Seeing the FBC, Darling, Rose at the diner, and them even directly commenting on how everybody wants to know what the hell it's not a lake, it's an ocean means has been a huge highlight. What's been your favorite callback? What do you think is going on? That's a good question. I don't think anybody is doing suspense horror and campiness close to the level of Remedy, not even Capcom. P.S. Could we hear Haley's quick opinion on Control? Okay, Jonathan, there's a lot there. Quick opinion on Control, Haley, having just finished it?
Control's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janet, for telling me to play Control.
No, really, you should play it. Let's see. It's on, the full playthrough is on MinnMax's new YouTube channel, by the way, which is youtube.com/@MinnMax Stream Archives. If you haven't checked that out, there's a ton of our Twitch streams over there. Okay, a ton of callbacks. We're going to get through a lot of them here, Jonathan, I promise. But yeah, you're right. It's Jonathan nailed it, where it's implying so heavily that playing their previous games matters. Like, that is the unique feeling of playing a Remedy game these days. It's like, we respect you and your time with us up to this point to such a degree.
That's interesting, because I think it also works if you don't have history with the games. Yeah. And it's like the Federal Bureau of Control is just a fleshed out like background thing that's going on that hopefully is still compelling and makes you want to go play Control. But I also do think about playing this, like the gall to make an Alan Wake 2, to call it Alan Wake 2 and try to sell that to mainstream modern audiences. But I guess I'm testing how much playing the first one matters, because I never really beat it, and I played it 2 hours 5 years ago.
It's so cool, the idea of, this sequel that they've been trying to make for 13 years. They finally made it, and their struggle to make the sequel for so long benefits the story in this game. Like when Alan Wake comes out of the lake and he's like, it's been 13 years. I can't believe it's been 13 years. Like, that's such a wild idea that like the creative struggles of the studio is adding to the pain of Alan Wake, which then ties into all of your mixed themes, Haley, and the metaphor of Alan Wake's experience.
They're talking about themselves.
Right.
There.
They've been drowning in the dark place lake. Yeah, creatively. Let's see. Jacob Schumer says the game does a great job of invoking memory of previous Remedy games without calling attention to it or explaining it. Nightingale calling the tree a threshold invoked the control terminology, where threshold meant a door to another dimension. Nightingale saying Hemingway like he mockingly called Alan in Alan Wake 1. And Sheriff Breaker is a male, a disconcerting difference for people who remember Sarah Breaker from Alan Wake 1. So much of the memory.
Dad.
So somebody else commented and said apparently it's the cousin. I don't know.
Oh, what? I thought it was her dad.
You could be right, Haley. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Someone else said that. But they say so much of the memory invoked is based on language absorbed over the previous games, which couldn't be captured in a recap video. It's a fitting thing for a series so focused on words, like Alan Wake. Haley, dumb question. The structure of what we've played so far. So this is where it's one of those things of like, I'm having a great time with it. Got it. But then if I think about it too much, it's like, I don't got it. What's going on here? I mean, obviously they want to be a bit nebulous, but is the idea that, okay, so it's Initiation is Alan Wake's chapters. Return are Saga's chapters.
Yeah.
In Alan Wake's section, it's very clear, like, Return is the book you're going to write next. Don't write Return, yada, yada. There's all those clues and prompts everywhere about that. So should we be fully in the world of believing that Saga's story is just what Alan has written in the future? Like, chronologically, it's weird because, like, oh God, because technically Initiation, chronologically, if that exists in the Dark Place, is happening before Return. But then Alan Wake emerges at the end of the Return stuff that we've encountered so far and then is warped back into remembering everything from Initiation. So I understand it's a weird time loop, but do you just understand the structure of what we're going through right now?
I think the easiest way to think about it is all the books are him trying over and over again to get out because he's trying to write himself out of the Dark Place. But it's hard to do that because Sam Lake had a phrase he said in a video. What was it? Laws of drama. He has to follow the laws of drama. So he can't just be like, and Alan Wake got out, his wife has big boobs, and we're free. He can't just write that because then it just won't work, I guess. It's like somehow.
I wish that was like more clear in the game though, because like Alan's writing and you're like, why don't you just not write horror?
That's so fair.
Like, if you're like a writer, why don't you write like, and then I was super cool and super strong and I escaped the Dark Place and my wife has big boobs now and I'm not divorced anymore. Like, it's not clear to me
that's such a
why we can't just make this easier.
Yeah.
I was so glad Haley told me that, so I had that context, because all the Alan Wake stuff of like building the story with the pieces you're finding, it's like, there is an easier way to do this unless you think of it as it has to be a story that makes sense.
It has to work within the confines of like archetypal horror novels. Otherwise it doesn't work. So he keeps trying to do that.
Easier horror novels though? Could we maybe
Goosebumps?
like pull back? Yeah, could we do like children's horror?
And then Slappy came out of the lake.
I wonder if like, I don't know, and then they're like, Alan's such a good writer, and then like I read his writing and I'm like, bro's kind of bad at writing.
Also,
all of this is like very boring.
He's such a good writer, but he seems to be scribbling out half the stuff he writes. I guess that's just the process of writing, but he seems sloppy about the scribbles, I gotta say.
But yeah, he's just trying over and over. And I never played American Nightmare, but apparently American Nightmare is like one attempt. So that's like a good way to, if you ever played that's like a book and that's him trying to escape is American Nightmare. Like that's an example of one. So now what's happening with Saga, he kind of references it at the very end of the chapter in that last cutscene. He says, the Dark Presence is editing my book to get to Saga. So we don't really know why. It's almost like Mr. Scratch, who's his like evil doppelganger, who is the Dark Presence. But also the Dark Presence could be anything, but it's just becoming Scratch to like mess with him essentially because the Dark Presence is a dick. Like it's almost like someone.
What did this man do? What did Alan do? That like this is the fate that has befallen him. Because like what I didn't realize that this game was going to be about such a sad man. Why is he so sad?
Wanted somebody bright and cheery in Bright Falls? I guess it makes sense. Well, I mean, so Gavin Fitzgerald wrote in on Patreon. They say, something I'm curious about for the rest of Alan Wake 2 is how they'll portray Alan. He hasn't always been portrayed as likable. He had a fair few character flaws, which is or was pretty rare for a protagonist. Before the first game occurs, his marriage is not in a great state. Alice was scared of his anger and outbursts, but still loved him. He had punched a paparazzi, was binge drinking, etc. And you see moments of anger surface to Alice and others quite quickly in that game. I hope they don't smooth away his roughness. So
This
he's a
is like
troubled
one
guy,
of
Sarah.
the unanswered questions that I really like is like, because, you know, Thomas Zane came before him, who was the author who was at the Cauldron Lake first, and then wrote himself out of the narrative completely. That was his only way to solve the problem. Like, Alan's trying to live, but Thomas Zane was like, and I died, because he just wanted to like leave and he hated it, so he like gave up. But
I
there's
went
like
to heaven.
heaven.
Author's note.
Asterisks beside it. But there's this unanswered question of whether it's Thomas Zane writing everything still, or
Ooh,
if
that's
Alan
cool.
is writing it, because Alan is such the archetypal author, and he, especially in one, not so much in two now. He seems like he's kind of more of not falling into those tropes and stuff. Is like, I'm the author, Stephen King, blah blah blah.
When he washed up in the lake, he looked at Saga and she was like, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Alan Wake. I'm a writer." And it's like, she didn't ask what you did. She just asked your name, buddy. Like, come on.
Writers are like that.
I'm a writer.
But that's such a that's a good way to view it, because like, what person says that? But a character in a book might say that. So like, I don't know, maybe the finale of this game is Thomas Zane is writing all this. Like, who knows? That was like the unanswered question from one that people think about. And I think I'm trying to think about it now, and like, it comes up, like, people call him Tom sometimes. Auntie,
Right, yeah.
the janitor, called him Tom a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what's that about? Like, I don't know. That's like a mystery behind the scenes that I've been thinking about a lot.
It did make me laugh when there's a lot of moments so far that are already like, oh, that's so good. But I loved when Alan and Saga see each other for the first time. It's all like distorted dimensional rift, and they're kind of communicating. It's like, oh, it's my favorite thing where he's like, I'm in Cauldron Lake, and she's like, I'm at Cauldron Lake. I love just like that weird surreal disconnect. But I think it's in that moment where I think when you see it from Alan's perspective, and it just struck me on the theme of Alan kind of being an ass when he's talking to Saga and Alan's like, look, I'm stuck in the dark place. I need some help. I mean, I'm making a lot of progress, but I still need a little bit of help here. I was like, what progress are you making? Like, Haley is somebody who understands. It's like, he thinks he's making progress?
He's not making progress.
Okay.
He's drowning, like,
Not that
quite
I need to
literally.
It's so
13
weird.
years.
He's literally at the bottom of a lake drowning right now, and he's just like, I'm okay, but maybe you could help me if there's time. Like,
I've solved some puzzles.
So obviously, I think the fun of this chunk of the game is, is Saga a real person investigating this? How much is she actually a character? I mean, there's a whole thing where Alan Wake, when he meets Alex Casey, he's like, wait, but you died, because we saw him die in the streets of Dark Place, New York City, yada, yada, yada. So it's confusing timeline-wise, yada, yada, yada. But are you just fully in the camp, Haley, of like, there's no universe where these are real characters that Saga is not a real character encountering real other human beings? Like, the entire world that Saga is in, this is all coming from Alan's mind. Like, it's just write out the idea that these are distinct
I don't know,
people.
because he is awfully bad at remembering things. So maybe he's not a reliable narrator, I guess, is the point. But like, it really seems like something else is trying to get at her, I guess. Like, maybe at the most, Alex Casey isn't real. Like, they do try to, or at the least, I mean, because there's one point where they kind of tongue-in-cheek say, like, oh, yeah, my name's the same as the detective, ha. Like, that's their way of
Right.
explaining it. But part of me is like, but you also look identical to the dude. You're him also? So, like, that's not a good explanation. I don't know.
The whole that part of like, well, it like Sokka's clearly a character, right? It seems like they pretty much tell you that, though, which is the part that makes me think like, well, there's got to be some bigger twist here, right? Because they're not going to tell you that in like the first 3 hours that like, oh, hey, aren't you a character in a story? It's like, it seems so clear. And that the conversation that you had about Thomas Zane and if Alan Wake is actually fake too, is the kind of like weird narrative, like mirror, like Turtles all the way down, kind of like what is real at this point? Because also like Alan Wake should just be like, hey, Alex Casey, I wrote you. What are you doing here? And
Right.
if you're here, then clearly Saga must also be a character that I wrote. You're in manuscript pages, for crying out loud, that you're like collecting. And so I have enjoyed the kind of total cluster that this story is and trying to figure it out. But that was one thing where it's like, well, when I stop and I think about it, it all seems pretty straightforward so far, but it can't possibly be that easy that it's just like, if the big reveal is Saga realizing, oh, I'm a character in a book, the end, Alan gets out now and everything for him is fine because he was the real one. That seems like it would be a very straightforward story that they have kind of telegraphed from the beginning.
How clear have they been with Saga so far? Is it just kind of the nebula stuff with Rose talking to her in the diner, Jeffem, or what do you think is like the biggest tell?
I mean, that and Saga being like, wait, but I'm in all of these manuscript pages. What's going on? You know?
Yeah.
And they're describing the things we're doing. How does that work? You know, and it's like, and then meanwhile, Alan's sitting on his typewriter in the dark place, like making up stories. Like it all seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, we're jumping ahead a little bit. We'll work through this plot, but like when Alan Wake is...
Will we?
Oh yeah, Sarah. Oh yeah. When Alan Wake is like coming out of the lake, it is funny. Like instead of just unpacking it all, like they kind of explain it away when he's back at the police station. He's like, oh, it's all so confusing. I forget what I wrote, yada, yada, yada. But it made me laugh that like him talking to Saga for the first time, it's like he is talking as if he is a person who just played Alan Wake 1. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, okay, you got to remember to pick up all the manuscript pages that you see. And if there's an enemy, you got to like shine a flashlight. You have a flashlight, right? Okay, you get a flashlight on him and then you can pop a few shots at him. It's like, it's so funny how straightforward and kind of like game FAQ he is on that beach.
That's true. It's probably because that's where he's still back in 2010 in a weird way.
Yeah, he's the one talking about lunar narrative dissonance.
Is it still ABXY?
Oh, well, now there's a Switch controller. It's a little complicated. It's rearranged. Chris Hewson wrote in with something you referenced, Leo, quickly, saying, this isn't true for all the characters, but many names in the game are so on the nose. Alan Wake is asleep / trapped in a dreamlike state. Saga Anderson's on a quest of an investigation, the first one she's led. Alex Casey is a detective on a case. Mr. Door has some role between dimensions. Ati is the name of a god of the sea / depths in Finnish folklore. I have no doubt these choices are intentional. They're all awesome, adding to the several layers of meta in the game. And something about just how out there / on the nose they are reminds me of Kojima's names, like Sam Porter Bridges.
Yes. I was just thinking of Death Stranding while you were talking about that.
As somebody who loves Metal Gear, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but playing the first third of this game, I was like, Kojima freaking wishes he was Remedy, man. Like, this is so much more interesting.
You're not wrong.
You know what? I was literally thinking about that because when Sam Lake is sitting on the couch, I was kind of like, cute, but I don't think I feel that way if it was like other auteurs. Like, I don't think, I don't like that word. I think, I don't know. Like, I like when certain people become figureheads for their creative process, but I also like when the people that are also someone who's very recognizable of the fact that they have an awesome team behind them, which Sam Lake's always been like.
Right.
Like, he's always like, it's not just me. My team's the best. I love my team. Oh my God. But he knows he's also like the face of Max Payne. So like, we're going to know who he is. So of course he's the one there doing that face. But it just hits different when it's him as opposed to like another auteur, as much as I hate that word.
And talk about on the nose names, Sam Lake, Cauldron Lake. Genius.
It's all right there, man. Yeah, it is. That is interesting to think about, Haley, like just kind of the auteur nature. Everyone's like, this is like Kojima. Like we got a couple people who wrote in on that theme. And I don't know what it says about the video game industry that it's like, well, we've got a couple of them. And if a game has enough personality and like is going for a distinct tone, it's like, well, if it's interesting, then it's an auteur game. And therefore it's like one of the other 3 auteur games that are out there on the market, you know?
I think when a game feels purposeful. Oh, sorry, Leo. That's when you feel like that.
Totally,
yeah. And it's certainly, not to say it's not well earned here, because I think so much of what's unique about this is, to me, seems because the writer is one of the directors. like it seems such a story first game and so many interesting game mechanics built around the story that they're trying to tell that feels rare, and that makes it feel like a singular auteur type of thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Somebody else wrote in about this, worried about Sam Lake's future in a good way.
Worried it won't be good enough.
That's right.
For what he deserves.
Taylor Wagon says, my heart was not ready for the amount of Sam Lake we've been getting in this game. And then not only do they bring him in for the most meta talk show interview I could have imagined, but he appears as Alex Casey character too. I was gearing up for my inevitable romp with totally Max Payne, smiling from ear to ear, and then they killed him immediately. I really shouldn't have been surprised, but I'm loving this game so much. And then Forrest with 2 R's says, is anyone else getting the feeling this might be one of Lake's last full-time projects? The degree of self-insertion and character reflection here and career reflection is significant, unlike almost anything I've seen outside of Lynch's character in the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. I love how we're exploring the seams of the story, poking at how Lake created the games, how they've impacted his own life as well. It's interesting that this makes Forrest worry about it being kind of the end of Sam Lake's career because it's so self-reflection. It's self-reflective, but at the same time,
I feel the opposite. I think this is him being like, here I am anchoring my anchor down at this dock. I'm here for a while, like kind of energy.
Yeah, I've listened to one interview with Sam Lake today, actually, on the Game Maker's notebook with Ted Price. It was a good chat. And he talked about like, yeah, there's so much of me in this game, but he's like, I felt like I had to do it because I've been trying to get this thing made for 13 years. So it feels like if there's one game where it's like, all right, let me stand in the front of this one in a bigger way than I normally do. Like you got to do it for Alan Wake 2, just because he's been so invested in trying to make this thing happen for so long. So maybe it's that and not him trying to say goodbye to everybody.
I think it's also because there's a reason for him being in there. That's not just look at my face. I am the face of this. It's like the meta narrative stuff I was referencing before. Like he's trying to say like this is Remedy and also the Remedy connected universe. And since I'm the face of Remedy, I'm in here too, and kind of thing.
Yeah.
So since there's an additional reason for it, it doesn't come across as gross and self-inserty. It's more like, I see what you like a cheeky wink instead of a, I don't know, selfie, I guess.
Yeah, Stephen Nelson wrote in with what you were talking about earlier, Haley. At this point in the story, we have 4 variants of Sam Lake / Alex Casey. 5 if you include game developer Sam Lake. Alex Casey, the FBI agent. Alex Casey, the detective in Wake's books. Sam Lake, the actor of Alex Casey in The Dark Place. And Alex Casey, the Dark Place detective. Do y'all think these are Marvel Cinematic Universe style variants? Or there's some weird overlap / astral projection stuff we don't have explanations to? Is the FBI agent variant written by Wake or Scratch, perhaps? I was so confused when I was dealing with Alex Casey, who was just Max Payne in the streets of New York City, which
saying the same type of stuff about how it's always raining or whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's what I was like, okay, who is this character? Should I think of them as the same as any other of the Alex Caseys? And then he dies, and I guess I didn't have to worry about it too much. That was the one where I just feel like I can't even begin to understand what you're going for here, shadowy figure that is Max Payne.
We're awfully confident that he's dead, like that means something.
Right.
I think we'll be seeing him very soon.
Yeah, I don't think it means anything to have this variant of Alex Casey dead, you know?
It's not like Alan Wake can rewrite the story at any point and change the entire world around him or anything.
I guess. And that also has all been in the past compared to where we are now for Saga story, I guess. But yeah, Dixon Denham wrote in saying, for Max Payne fans, this game is a treasure trove. Not only are there painkiller health items, but here Alex Casey shows up in Max Payne's outfit, jumps around a corner, gets shot and dies in an alley, which is so Max Payne. That and hearing James McCaffrey's voice slathered over a New York noir setting again is divine. Great job, Sam. Very exciting and very meta. I'm looking forward to seeing more, which is what
the word meta. We need to drink every time we say the word meta.
Yeah. Sarah, how you doing, champ?
Why don't you like it?
I feel like I lied on my resume and got hired at the job anyway. Like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, yeah, Max Payne, Control, Alan Wake 1, Remedy, Sam Lake. I love Sam Lake. Like I'm like, why am I here?
I'm really curious, Sarah, of your thoughts, like without that foreknowledge, because I only got it shoved into me the last 2 weeks. Like honestly, like, that's the reason I'm fresh and whatever. Is the game still fun and rewarding, like from a narrative side, without that?
I really feel like I'm really glad that they added Saga, right? Because Saga, I feel like definitely her part, so helpful. It stood on its own very well. I was like playing the game and I was like, you know what would like for me make this game better? And this is my worst games media opinion that I hold. I was like, you know what would make this game better for me? If this guy Alan wasn't in it. And I'm like,
I love it.
As it like cuts to the title screen, Alan Wake. Because like when you're playing a saga, it just feels like the fact that they're trying to like shoehorn this Alan character into it the entire time. You're like, who's this guy? Couldn't the writer have just been a nameless person? Couldn't it have just been like a stand-in for God? And then I'm like playing Alan's part and I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on. Like the man is just sad. He won't write his way out of the dark place. If I was Saga and Alan Wake popped out after 13 years, I'd shoot him on the spot, okay? Because, like, I'm just not going to deal with that evil. That is evil. You get back in that lake. You're done. I'm not having it. So I'm just grappling with a lot right now.
Yeah.
And it's only been 6 hours.
Sarah's probably most people playing this game. Is like,
I think so.
What percentage do you think? 65, 70? Like, it's probably that, at least.
Yeah, Sarah,
I have the background.
I'm more in your camp than you think. Like, it really was a weird moment of like, I finally had some free time last week. I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's start Alan Wake 2. And I booted it up and then I'm like, what am I doing? No, I need to actually watch a recap of all of Alan Wake 1 and watch a recap of Control. I'm like, had to like really do my homework because like, Control is the first Remedy game I finished. Even that was like in 2019. So it's like some of that was pretty hazy. So Sarah, I'm kind of a fake ass hardcore fan here as well. So you're not completely alone. I'm also
I feel so bad being like, I just wish that there was like less Alan in this game called Alan Wake 2.
I do like that they're different enough, the Alan and Saga sections, that you can really prefer one over the other.
Yeah. SYS writes in and says, Saga is a brilliant introductory character because her unfamiliarity and curiosity parallel our own. She subverts the very overused newcomer trope by having her investigation addressed in Alan's manuscript in a way. Oh, in a way, Alan subverts this trope too by writing and discovering the story along with us. And it would be remiss not to mention the book House of Leaves as its non-linear, Jeff, help me out, semi-ergodic?
Erotic.
Oh, highly erotic structure, meta, multimedia, and use of
why doesn't Alan Wake write erotica? Like, hello.
That's what I was wondering. Like, if I had Alan Wake's powers, I wouldn't be screaming for that reason.
Did you guys play the prologue of this game? I think he wrote plenty of erotica. Every woman's fantasy is a saggy guy running up from a lake. Anyways, use of unreliable narrator parallel Alan's story because Sam Lake says that House of Leaves is also one of his favorite books. It is interesting. Like, I like Saga as a character so far because she is that great introductory point, but at the same time, she's not so in your face with like what is going on? What is all this? Like, she
really stands on her own.
Yeah, she does. And she has like her own era of mystery about her where it's like, is she psychic? What is going on? When she's like putting these detective clues together, it's like, she's
the
not
profiling.
Yeah, it just it feels like there's a little magic to Saga, so it's not
she's
just
cheating. I do feel like I'm like the game is cheating for me whenever Saga goes down and she just goes, the heart is in the general store in the cooler, and I'm like, and we knew that how? Like you just like sat down and like surmised it.
This is the thing in Control is there's people called Para something, I can't remember. They think Alan is one of them. Jesse is one of them in Control, is people who have extra powers. And they think Alan has that because he can influence AWE's, like the typewriter, like he can like manipulate it or whatever. But it seems like they're trying to hint that she is one. And I really thought that when she was in the diner and she was talking to the bookers and they were like, we didn't see anything. And then she hears her thoughts of, I have a necklace. And she's like, give me the necklace. And that's how you know that. There's no narrative explanation. Like the rest of it kind of seems like intuition. Like his heart got taken out. I bet I could look at it and something. I'm like, okay, like maybe a really good detective would think that through. As soon as it was the necklace, I was like, nah, she's clairvoyant. She can read minds. Yeah. And maybe she doesn't even know it yet. And she thinks it's intuition. She just thinks she's a good detective.
Right. And that probably is what's happening in her mind.
Yeah.
But I think it makes for a much more interesting character instead of like, I think a larger theme with this game for the first chunk is like, I'm not really into murder mystery stuff, But the second there's like a supernatural twist to a murder mystery, like I'm so much more on board. And I feel like with Saga, that's kind of the case. Like, she's just a detective. I get the idea. But the fact that she's a little off and everyone's off in their relation to her, it just makes her so much more interesting. But then there's weird moments too that I feel like I don't really understand Saga as a character, where I don't know if you all had this, but she was like running around the woods. Believe it or not, she's running around the woods, and then she's
alone by herself.
Well, of course,
you know, FBI protocol.
Right. But she then calls Alex Casey and she's like, "Hey, what's a forest's favorite shape? It's a triangle." Yeah. And I was like, "What?
I never heard this."
Oh, really? I was like,
that's because
this is Saga's personality.
I spent a lot of time looking around that forest.
Okay.
And I think Haley, you just kind of like went on to the next part of the story.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's like she likes jokes and puns. Like that's not the impression I had of Saga so far.
That was an olive branch to fans of Resident Evil 4.
Oh, okay. Smart.
People were like, this dialogue is kind of good. We wanted to kind of like quell that worry.
Oh, just because you mentioned the Bookers too in the diner, Haley. Like, I think Ed Booker's performance is one of my favorites so far. When he's like reciting, he's like, and then they're all like, "Cult of the tree, cult of the tree." And that actor, I think, was just doing such a good job for just being like weirdo guys in the diner booth.
They came up later, which I thought was interesting when you're switching between the typing, like, you know, when he types and changes the tunnels and the subway, it shows Alex Casey talking to the Mrs. Booker because she has so much experience with Alan Wake. So that, and like the cult of the word stuff. And that made me think, like, does Alex Casey, the character in the book, know about his creator, Alan Wake? And in the book, he's trying to figure out people who are doing occult killings based on his creator's works. Because if that's that book, I want them to release that book and I want to read that book because that sounds amazing and confusing and I'd love it.
And that's interesting because Alan is upfront about like doing meta stuff and liking that. He's like, at a certain point in a section, he's like, I figured I had to put myself in the story. I didn't want to, but it just seemed like it would work. And the idea that, you know, every character is a piece of the writer. And so they're all kind of aware of this meta structure.
And that's what really Sam Lake is doing in real life with us. Like,
further.
Spencer,
I know it makes you want to walk into a lake, doesn't it? It just makes you want to slowly submerge my body.
Not so much a lake, but an ocean. Yeah. Speaking of which, the start of the game, Spencer Bertine.
What an opener.
Yeah, Spencer Bertine writes in and says, "What a way to open a game. Stumbling through the forest as a naked, bloated, inevitable victim immediately sets the new tone Remedy was aiming for in its long-awaited sequel. Top it off with a title card that would now live in my mind rent-free for eternity. It's a banger of an intro sequence."
I had to run to the settings to turn off nudity because there might have been a butt on the MinnMax Twitch for like 1 second. Sorry, Ben.
Oh, that's.
I didn't know there was gonna be butts, and then
it puts jeans on him when you turn it off. In the settings.
I wish jeans
like really sad pairs of like tidy whiteies on them that are like you can tell they didn't
really
put much
wet.
time into rendering because it's just like they just kind of slap it on.
Really?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because he comes up naked, like I would assume. I haven't seen him naked yet. Damn it! But he comes up like. A bunch of times with his underwear on. My loss. I'll go replay it off stream and just to turn that off and watch again.
So
sure
even during the autopsy, he's just got tidy whities on?
He's just got straight up like
hilarious.
Little tidy whities.
Oh, that's funny because when I was struck too, I really enjoyed the intro, but I was like, oh, these cowards. These cowards are scared of showing dong in their game. Like,
you're spinning that camera around?
I was trying. Like, is there a photo mode? Is there like
who of us wasn't spinning it around?
Photo mode?
Of course we're all spinning it around. Photo mode? Little much.
Like, I wish it was like a Crash Bandicoot style sequence though, where he's like running towards the camera away from the legs. And I'm like,
you're like sepia, black and white, like trying to get the perfect pic.
Right, an emoji over his dong. But then I was pleasantly surprised. But later on, it's like in the autopsy, it's like, oh, you want dong? Here you go. Just whatever you could possibly.
Yeah, that made
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Empiric Unicorn says the cold opening. Jeff, you saying you weren't trying to get a glimpse of that dong?
I absolutely was, and I noticed if you turn it fast enough, it does turn far enough, but he's got his hand in front.
Oh,
he kind of like turns his shoulder.
Yeah.
Yep.
He knows
because
it's because the game's so meta. He knows that he's being followed by a Lakitu style video game camera, so he has to cover his junk. He has his shame.
He knows you're streaming.
That's right. Empiric Unicorn says the cold open was the perfect combination of X-Files and the upcoming Bennett Foddy game. The Baby Steps game, I think is what he's referencing. It does look like that. I'm a Biggie Boy says, I did not have large, hairy man ass on my opening scene bingo card, yet here we are. I'm glad I waited for
large. It was like quite pinched, actually.
Yeah, tight bum. He said, I'm glad I waited for my 5-year-old to go to bed before starting. Yeah, that's a tough thing, I think, to explain.
What's man ass?
What's mixed media meta-narrative, Daddy?
Let's see. Sean Mills says it's easy for a horror game to try and scare you with an ugly-looking monster or a creepy villain. Instead, this game forces you to live in a situation where you're naked, lost, alone, and confused, and it's truly terrifying. I think Remedy is tapping into a more primal fear here than most game developers would dare to try, and I find it's a lot more effective than most horror games.
They're going for vulnerability, which it 100% works. Like, you're the most vulnerable when you're naked and wet and coming out of a lake, and where am I? And now there's people killing me. That's like the scariest thing I could ever think of, because I'm naked and getting killed. I would hate it so much.
And it's also such a classic horror thing to open with the last victim of the killer the movie's about to be about. And that's almost them, like, to me, was planting their flag in that genre right at the start.
Opening with the last victim? Like just seeing their death quickly type of thing?
A cold open of a murder victim, I feel like, is horror 101.
Very CSI, too. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have more of the Who screaming, I think, when Saga is getting to the bottom of the case. How long did it take before you understood who that was, Haley?
Who, Nightingale?
Yeah. No, the Who. Never mind, yeah, Nightingale.
They say Nightingale, I think. The detective that leads you to the body is like, oh, it's Nightingale. And then Casey's like, oh, crap, I knew him. That's when I was like, oh, crap, it's Nightingale. Because he doesn't look like Nightingale at all from the first game. Like, he's been underwater, and it's been 13 years, and he's stayed in Bright Falls for 13 years, apparently going crazy, like, trying to figure out what happened to Alan Wake, I think, is like the insinuation. So he was the one who came to get Alan in the first game. He was the funny one who was always like, okay, Stephen King, like, okay, Raymond Chandler, and would just like shoot at him like crazy.
Shoot
like,
at him?
Yeah, he was insane. Like, the whole joke with him is that there's like, what's that scene from Community where Danny DeVito's like, and then I just started blasting. Like, that was literally Nightingale in the first game. He sees Alan and he just was like, might as well have an AK-47, just goes like this, and like Alan has to run away. That was like Nightingale's whole thing. He was just pushing Alan further in the story.
So was at Alex Casey said like he knew him. Was Alex Casey in the first game?
No, so Nightingale was an FBI agent in the past. So he knew him, like, not well, he kind of implied. Like, I knew him from, like, through people and talked to him a few times because they were both FBI agents.
Okay, gotcha.
That's all. So I don't think he cared that he died. He was like, oh, like, tangentially knew of the dude. And then when they said Nightingale, I was like, that's Nightingale? Because I didn't think it was him at all at first.
Fun.
Like, it doesn't look like him at all.
Also, shout out to, the cool thing about, one of the cool things about the environments in this game, but it definitely is impactful out of the gate, is like you rarely see wind this good in games. But when you're running as Nightingale and the trees are just whipping around, and the fact that they like change how much the wind is blowing through the trees, even during Saga sections, to like make it scarier, it's such a cool touch that I guess we're at that point in games now where you can really start playing with wind in a bigger way.
I stood at the witch's hut and there was like the window shutters were hitting like against the door, and I stood there and reveled in it for a second because it was perfect. Like clearly they have a wind engine, and it was just like blowing them, and they naturally had the audio going like when the wind happened to blow them.
That's
and it made
sweet.
it so creepy, and it was awesome. And then when you went inside the hut, it sounded like when you're inside and you hear that, because it sounds totally different when you're outside or inside. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm gonna scream because this game's sound is so good, and they're gonna use it to scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, Wes Bates is right there with you, funnily enough. They say, I found the sound design to be impeccable. It really stood out to me as I walked into the witch's cabin in the outskirts of Cauldron Lake. Hearing the wind rustling through the small room and the creak and bang of the shutters blowing against the cabin had me convinced something was going to jump out at any second, even though it didn't, and gave me a shiver up my spine. This is no doubt just the tip of the iceberg and a great horror experience, and I can't wait for more audio chills. Playing with headphones are definitely recommended.
Do you all think this is really scary? How scary out of 10 do you all think this is? I'm curious.
I don't play a lot of horror. Yeah, I don't play a lot of horror either. Like, to the level of, I don't think I would have played through the masterpiece of Resident Evil 2 Remake by myself. Like, I had to play it with a buddy. But this one, maybe 6 to 7 out of 10. Like, okay. I haven't hit a moment yet where I'm like, no way am I continuing this. You know, it feels like a very doable level for me, who's a baby, but maybe I've matured. I don't know.
Yeah, I think part of it, when I get really scared in games, it's more tied into like enemies and the mechanisms around those enemies. And here, like, the combat is pretty manageable. I get more freaked out when I hear them like whispering "wake" as you're walking past. Yeah. But I would say like that forest is just creepy as all get out. Like the atmosphere, like in terms of like just tension and me not wanting to be in that environment, that was like 10 out of 10. And then I was surprised that like you go to the city and it's like, okay, that's not nearly as scary as a forest is going to be. And that was pretty goddamn scary in the city too. Like they're just good at making very creepy environments, and just kind of the atmosphere of it that you kind of soak in. Has been the creepiest thing for me.
I'm like 7 or 8 scary. I've been looking for a good horror game, and I've been really satisfied by this. What really hit me is like, okay, this is the exact horror experience I was looking for. Is when you're coming back from finding Alan, and it's like you can optionally explore this whole side area. That was the choice of you can go get these more resources and do these extra puzzles, but it's more time doing something scary. Like having that be the decision I was making was exactly what I wanted. Like, okay, I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there are way more enemies out just kind of all over the forest now, and you never know when they're going to come after you.
And hearing them and not knowing exactly what direction.
It was apparently the scariest thing for me is how long the map loads on PC for whatever reason. Like the longer I got in the game, like it would like pop up, but everything would be blurry and I'd have to wait like 5 seconds for it to render in. And I didn't realize that like when the map's open, the game isn't paused. Yeah. And in the forest, I was constantly opening the map. Like I was like every 5 steps, I'd like check the map just to make sure I was heading the direction I wanted to. And I had the map open and I was looking at it. And then I just got like attacked by 2 monsters. And then I died and I lost like 25 minutes of my playthrough. And I was like, oh, very cool. Oh, apparently the map doesn't pause the game.
So you
I did get a tooltip about it, but the tooltips are weird. One's bugged and pops up every time I get to a new chapter. And I never got the one for dodging. I was just like, I'm pretty sure there's a dodge in this game, right? And then I pressed all the buttons.
Oh no, you didn't know you could dodge? That's very critical.
Yeah, through the full first boss fight, I didn't know.
Oh god.
Oh, no, that's how did you beat that?
Yeah, I should probably.
Are you all playing on consoles?
Controller on PC.
Okay. Are you playing? So no one's playing through like the Epic Game Store?
I am.
You are? Have you seen the Epic Game achievements that will pop up? Because those things are so loud, and like you'll go through this like really scary cutscene. And it'll just be like, escape death, ba-ding! Like during like the heaviest moments of the game. And the thing about the Epic Games achievements is they're not just like in the bottom right-hand corner like Steam. They don't just kind of like slip it to you like a little note. They like banner it across like the top middle of your gameplay with a little like fireworks go off. And you're like, please, like stop ruining my vibe.
Does your screen capture it too?
Yes.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yuck.
I thought about muting them, but they're, I like
you can mute them, but then you have to mute them every time. Like it doesn't like save the settings when I mute.
Really?
It comes back when I go to play again.
Oh, that's super dumb.
Jeff, I'm going back to the scary stuff in the woods. Like, sound design is the part that really freaks me out. It scares me as much as the fact that I can hear my voice going. So I apologize for how I sound in this episode and how I'm going to sound by the end of it. But it's running around in the woods and just hearing like knocks on the trees. Just like those sounds freaking kill me. And like
people walking up behind you, they do that. So you turn around and then there's no one. They constantly do that. It's so terrifying.
But the other part that has been the scariest part so far is when you are Alan and you're going through that train where the people like burn everybody alive in there. And as you're going through the train, it's like ramping up the sounds and you're hearing those people. And I think one of them is like, why are you doing it? Like just hearing
Rent was due for those voice actors. Like I thought they were on fire. I thought Remedy
Yes.
killed 20 people to get that audio.
That was brutal.
That was terrifying.
Yes, and it's such a great gameplay moment where you're like, this is just gonna keep getting worse. I'm like turning around looking for the exit. Like, can I get away from this horrifying stuff I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Ty writes in over on Patreon. They say, the abrupt and loud interjection of Alan's face as Nightingale stumbles caused me to audibly yelp. It's the most effective jump scare in a game, and it was less than 5 minutes in, so this should be fun, says Ty. With all the praise of this game, the flashes, the jump scares, I hate them. I really hate them.
It's very
Not in a fun way.
Sci-fi channel, we're doing horror,
Yes.
like amateur hour.
Oh, Jeff, whoa.
That's what we put in. That's what we
Get 'em.
But if you watch a lot of bad like made for TV horror movies,
Yes.
like that's the kind of jump screen, like sound effect noise that they put in when it's like we don't have a legitimate scare here. And it's unfortunate because like I said, like I am on edge the entire time I was walking around that forest and the entire time I was walking around the city. Like I'm already on edge. You don't need to do the equivalent of like cat jumping out of a cupboard here.
Yes. Yeah. But it's just, it does feel like just when it's just edited in, like cat jumping out of the cupboard, that's one thing. But when it's literally just, we're just going to scream and put a face on the screen, it just feels like, what is this, some Steam game made for $4.99? Like, what is this,
I don't think that's an unfair take at all, but I love jump scares. They make me feel alive.
What is wrong with you?
I'm kind of team Leo because I'm the biggest baby. This is like an 8 or 9 scary for me because I don't play horror. But when those happen, I'm kind of like, yay! And then I like get excited and like keep playing. And my adrenaline's up and I have the good juice in my brain that my body thinks I'm dying.
Because it's like a character that you're like, okay, who did I see there? Who was that? And it's like, it's related to what you're doing, Okay. It's like a spooky little addition to what's going on.
It's very cheap though. Like I agree with Jeff. I'm like, it's no effort.
With what you said at all.
It's just like,
so
Luigi Wigglehorn, which is a great name, says, this is my first deepest dive to leave a comment. So I was hunting for Nightingale and the jump scare of his face flashed on the screen. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I then paused the game and started laughing at myself as I recovered. Also, the deer running through the general store made me scream like crazy as well. It's been fun to get scared in this game. Yeah, the deer got me a decent amount.
Even
I
after
knew the deer was going to happen.
Even
We've
after
seen
the
it in the
demo,
previews.
yes.
Still got me.
Yeah. Something about being in that environment, I guess. The general store.
Oh no,
Don't
Ben.
cry.
We're going away. I thought
Need
it was
some water, pal.
when I was confused about when I was like running around in the open area in the second saga chapter, because it's like, okay, the objective is like you can run around, explore, or go back up to the car and go back to the town with Alan Wake, right? But I was running by the general store, and then Saga said like, she goes, the solution has to be in here. And did anybody else have that? Where I was like, wait, solution to what?
Did you go in and you didn't go into the general store before that?
Well, I did to get the hearts or whatever, but this is after that. This is like when you're.
Was she talking? Did you get the rifle?
Yeah, I got that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you were
What,
too
the
close.
shotgun?
You know that other house that had a puzzle with all the triangles by stuff in the house?
I don't think I saw that.
There's a house right by the general store where you're supposed to go in. It's like, wash your hands, take out the chicken, have a nap. And there's like triangles. If you go in the house, there's like shapes beside each of the items in the house. And then you're like, oh, the kitchen with the chicken has this triangle, whatever. Maybe that you walked near there and you didn't see it.
That's probably what it was. Okay, that explains it. Yeah. All right, let's
Sorry
see.
to shatter the mystery.
No. That makes more sense. I'm glad there's some explanation there. Let's see. So, Ebok writes in, says, I had a big smile on my face when you're standing in front of the diner with Sean Ashmore from Quantum Break and Sam Lakes with Max Payne's voice. At the beginning of this game, I was so excited when it's like, all right, on the crime scene, investigating the cult, yada, yada, yada. And then the day of like, all right, well, we got to go back to the diner in town. I was like, that is the best carrot on a stick you can dangle in front of me at this point in gaming is like, I want to see AAA diner. Let me explore that space. And like, I feel like it did not let me down. I love that diner space so much. It looked awesome.
That diner space looked great. I was weirded out by the audio, which I guess anything that's weird in this game feels like, well, I guess maybe that's intentional, how weird it is. But it was just like, no background chatter whatsoever. Just occasionally somebody from across the diner would go, "Hello." And it's like, you don't have to make that systemic. They can be just the diner guys.
Tom Rickard says, recently visited Seattle this year and I checked out the nearby town of North Bend where they filmed portions of Twin Peaks, which is one of the many inspirations behind Alan Wake. In the town is Tweed's Cafe, which is where they shot scenes of the R&R Diner in Twin Peaks. The Oh Dear Diner is modeled after that diner as well, and it is shocking how accurate it is. The floor, the tables, the placement of certain things at the front counter, even the curtains on the windows next to the booths is exactly the same fabric. Remedy's attention to detail in their environments is second to none.
I was going to say, when I went in that diner, like, the details were so crazy that I'm like, this is a real diner they walked in and, like, took pictures of, because there's no way that this is just a place that someone came up with. Because the pens on the table, the way the cups are stacked, the way that, like, the things behind the counter are organized, that a waitress has worked there for 12 years and has her stuff the way she wants it. Like, that's the way that diner feels like, and it's perfect.
Yep, I love, like, the posters on the wall there. There's one of just a guy in a life jacket, and it says, "Staying alive is the coolest fashion statement. Wear a life jacket."
Posters were so good. There's, like, a missing dog.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, the Dear Diner, like, they're selling the coffee cup costumes because they, like, upgraded to, like, the thermos costumes, and, like, I don't know. I just had such a good time, even though I don't really understand much of the backstory, just, like, exploring the town.
Yeah.
Like, I probably combed over, like, every nook and cranny. I went back to the cabin that you're staying in, and you can get into Casey's room. And the thing is just littered with coffee cups. Littered with coffee cups. Like, there's probably, like, 20 just empty coffee cups just littered in the room. And I thought that was a really cool touch and feature that you can explore a lot.
Oh, that's perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, it's funny, talking about, like, oh, it must be a real diner. I mean, so many people wrote in, like, hey, this is Twin Peaks as hell, all hell. But have you ever seen the diner from Twin Peaks, Haley?
I've never seen Twin Peaks.
I've also never seen Twin Peaks. I literally just looked it up today. You should look up the diner from Twin Peaks because it's one-to-one. It's exactly it, which is funny. Yeah, so Reed wrote in and they say, it's odd that this game is set in 2023, which is a modern-looking... Yeah, I know, exactly.
It's the diner.
It's just the diner, yeah. Subtle nod to Twin Peaks. But they say, it's odd the game is set in 2023 as modern-looking things are mostly smartphones and radio earpieces. Some computer monitors are thin, others are big CRTs. Brightfall is a faithful recreation of a Northwest small town in the 90s, such as Snoqualmie, where Twin Peaks was shot. Cars range from 98 to decades earlier. Is Alan supposed to be an old-fashioned guy with his head stuck in the past? Or is he lost in time?
It takes a long time for technologies to get to these smaller towns, though. So, like, I didn't hold it against them when they had, like, dinosaur PCs.
But I think it's also a weird mesh of, it's probably some bit of Alan's mind influencing it, but also if Remedy is so inspired by Twin Peaks from the 80s and 90s, Twin Peaks, what was that, like,
it would upset me
something?
if they let their love for Twin Peaks, like, date their game in a different way, that they were like, oh, but I just love the way these, like, fat computers look. Because they look so good in my favorite show, Twin Peaks. I'd be
if
like,
it was written by Thomas Sane, then 13 Years in the Future would be about the 90s.
Okay. Ooh.
But Thomas Sane
Can you
would
go
know
get some
what
water?
computers look like.
I have water, it's not helping.
can you, like, make yourself some tea?
I guess I can try that. Let's see. Tim writes in and says, no water. Here we go. Anyone else run right up to the jukebox in the Oh Dear Diner? There's a note saying it's out of order and to quit playing the same song over and over again. This is a reference to an achievement in the first game where you had to put the lime and the coconut on the jukebox on 2 different occasions. It was a nice, quirky achievement.
The Anderson brothers, like, that's like the 2 rock guys. They sing the song in Control that everyone loves from the
Ashtray
what's
Maze.
it called? The Ashtray Maze. And then, like, as they were singing that when I was playing Control, I was like, this is the Anderson brothers, because they're from Control. They stopped the first 2 AWE events. They actually have a lot of lore, but they're just 2 old dudes who were, like, rock stars when they were younger. But they are able to, like, acknowledge. I think they're probably also para people or whatever you want to call them. But they stopped, like, more AWE issues than Alan Wake. But yeah, we don't talk about them. They're just, like, hanging out in the background a lot of time, and they're, like, awesome, and their songs are awesome.
Isn't it kind of weird that it's Saga's last name then?
Right.
And she said they're from Finland, and she said her mother's from Sweden.
Right,
I was gonna
right.
say maybe
Good call.
they're the same, but
Got the sweater and everything. I love Remedy for a lot of reasons, but just the fact that it is so clear that this is made in Finland, like that they're so proud of it, and there's so many I mean, I guess, 2 Finnish characters in the game so far, but they're just speaking in Finnish. It just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, and having the best character, Ahti, be Finnish.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pride.
Noel writes in and says, this is more of a Remedyverse thought, but I wanted to share it since I thought of it while playing this game. With the name Old Gods of Asgard and the oldest house in Control being a location housing doorways to other dimensions, I started wondering if the oldest house is actually Yggdrasil, like the world tree, and that would make Ahti Ratatoskr, which is the squirrel that delivers messages across the tree. And could there be other parallels? On a smaller note, I like in Control, the thermoses were established to essentially be magical items, and now there are save stations in Alan Wake 2. And then Jacob Schumer replied to that comment and said, they strongly indicate that the oldest house is Yggdrasil, with the iconography associated with the Foundation DLC, apparently.
This makes me really want to learn more about Finnish lore and like mythology, because there's so much iconography in this game that I'm like, is that a Finnish thing? Like the deer keeps coming up over and over and over again. I was talking about this in my stream a second ago, and it's not just like in the weird flashes. Like when you first start, it's a dead deer, half in the water, half.
Well, we lost Haley, but you get the idea. I guess it's like, Ahti, I think, she's been lost into the dark place. She's like the sheriff. No, I'm not ready yet.
You overlap.
But yeah, the idea of like Ahti, I guess, is a reference to a Finnish god, but then a lot of it's just kind of general, Norse mythology type stuff. But the deer thing is interesting. I love just the imagery of having like the mirror in the lake with the deer head out of the gate. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't the deer head like come out of the lake too? Which is like maybe like insinuating that the deer is like part of the dark place, and the fact that the deer is kind of always mounted and watching. It's like a looming presence.
Yes.
So I really want this deer to like lead to something. I'm like clinging to the iconography of this deer.
Well,
it's like the only thing I kind of understand.
I mean, I guess the Deer Fest and the cult, it's all interconnected, right? Like,
I
and
think
then you
it's
can
more.
pet all
There
the
must be
deer
some
heads as
story.
Saga.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that, Jeffo?
You can pet all the deer heads as Saga.
Yeah.
She goes up and talks to him.
But she like really gets in there like it's a dog or something. And like I don't know if you've touched like a taxidermy deer head, but it's
All the
not
time.
like soft or fluffy.
Jeffem, I just want the world to know that Jeffem has a taxidermied moose head in his house. A giant moose head.
For real? No
I do.
fooling?
Did you hunt it?
I do.
cool.
It's here. I talk to it every night.
And you pet it as a
give it
aggressive.
have a
little,
name?
And
scratches.
it talks back. Yep.
Hanson was mean to me again.
She keeps making fun of you, Moosey. Anthony Brown says, yeah, did you know you can pet the deer mounted head on the wall? It's very creepy when you accidentally activate the prompt in a dark cabin in the middle of the woods, and Saga puts away her flashlight and pets a deer in the dark.
In the dark.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I didn't. It was too dark for me to see. I was like, what is she doing?
Let's see. Mr. Buttons writes in and says, I've been loving how the game is handling its references to Control, with some being very direct while others more subtle. One of the first park signs you come across as Saga gives a brief description of Mirror Peak, the mountain overlooking Cauldron Lake. Interestingly, the sign notes that at the right angle, its reflection on the lake will be mirrored in all of its inverted glory. Is the board/inverted pyramid from Control secretly influencing Bright Falls? So the mountain mirrored in the lake is the Control logo? That's the idea, Mr. Buttons?
Yeah, I got that too.
That's good.
Interesting.
That's some good freaky stuff. What do y'all think of the cult so far?
I wish there was more
Which
cult.
one?
Oh, I guess
which one?
Cult of the Tree, right? Like the
They're
deer
scared.
I got a little
people.
confused in Alan's part where they said that they had like, what are they called? Like the Fire Watchers. And then the Cult of the Tree came in and like drove them out. I was like, we've got like some cult on, the torchbearers. We've got some cult on cult violence going on. But the only ones in the woods are the Cult of the Tree. So I don't know.
It would
Yeah.
make sense the Cult of the Tree hate the torchbearers, I guess, just from a fundamentary level.
Elemental opposition.
Yeah.
I like the angle of. It seems like what they're setting up. I mean, okay, there's a lot here, but the Cult of the Tree, I like how I'm not scared of them. Yes, I guess
I'm so scared.
Oh, you
of
are.
them.
You
But
think you're supposed to be scared
I
of
know.
them.
But here's the thing. Like,
He's bragging.
I've never felt
brave.
fear in my life. They could come into my basement right now. I'd welcome the Cult of the Tree. No, but I love. It feels like they're setting up the idea that like these are just a bunch of dip S's, if I may be so bold of a commentator. Where it's like, they have a cooler full of beer. They're like filming this, and like Saga even has that reference of like oh, they're really into this triangle and like putting it all around the town. Like it's like they're into marketing. I just feel like these guys
Gotta know your brand.
Yeah, they say, because she's also like, it's weird for a cult to be screaming the name of the cult and the fact that they're in a cult. It's also like weird marketing stuff.
Well, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like a bad horror novel with a man that doesn't know how to write cults. Where they would just kind of go around.
Cults rule, cults rule.
Because I don't know very many cults who would self-identify as a cult.
Right.
In the first place. So that's all interesting.
Yeah, I guess you could tie that in. But I feel like the rest of this game, if you're dealing with a very real dark place and reality is swirling and there's supernatural stuff all over, like, I don't want the cult to be another supernatural scary thing. Like, I kind of like them just being, I don't know, some stupid drunk idiots in the woods that want to be cool and get their brand out there and they're just jumping out from behind a tree to scare you. Like, there's enough freaky stuff in the game, you know?
I guess they probably are dumb in between the murders, but they're pretty scary at the murder and
tear someone's heart out? Like ratchet strap someone to a picnic table and cut their heart out?
Then again, they didn't kill the Bookers. They saw them and they were able to get away just fine.
The Bookers ran fast enough.
That's why they're called the Bookers.
Yeah, but that is something interesting is that, the voices you hear as they come at you and stuff, there's like an element of them being everyday people, like regular country blokes, like you're talking about with the beers and stuff, which can make them creepier, it being like anyone you know or whatever.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, for all we know, Jeffem puts that moose hat on late at night, goes out in the woods.
It's true.
It's true, for all we know. Joshua Caleb writes in and says, there's something about Rose. In Alan Wake, she's the lady at the diner. So in Alan Wake 1, Rose is touched by the dark presence and is compelled to trick Barry and Alan and lead them into danger. In the Alan Wake files, there's a transcript of Agent Nightingale's interrogation of Rose, where she's very distressed that she's betrayed Alan, but she says she couldn't control her words and actions and that she was screaming inside of her mind. This makes the creepy interaction with Saga all the more interesting. Thanks, Joshua.
I'm confused by how she seems to remember she was taken by the dark presence, but Alice doesn't. I don't get that. Because Alice is like, you see that video of her being like,
oh my God,
my husband's missing, but I'm taking pictures of him when he scares me. And I'm like, do you not remember being taken in the Cauldron Lake? Like, hello. She's like, now I have an art gallery and I'm single. And I'm like,
I hate creative people. Like, I hate them.
I'm like, do you not remember? Because Rose, although when we see Rose in the diner, she's like super weird. But like, is that the Rose we know? Because it doesn't really track with the file you're talking about, Ben.
Yeah.
Which also makes me kind of think, is Saga somewhere real? Do we trust the file written by Nightingale, who's also in the weird world? Like, what do we trust? What documents or like imagery do we trust? I feel like we don't know anything.
That was definitely a situation where when Rose is talking to Saga, like, oh, Saga Anderson, so nice to see you. I'm sorry about your daughter drowning, yada, yada, yada. It's like, Saga moves on from that pretty fast.
I would have arrested her on the spot. I would have said, ma'am, come with me. Come on down to the cabin. Gonna ratchet strap you to this chair and we're gonna have a chat.
I'm gonna rip your heart out.
Yeah, that whole conversation was, and I hadn't, that was the point where I was like, okay, I have to go back and watch a primer and understand what was going on, because I didn't realize that Rose was a recurring character, which made it slightly more understandable. But that entire conversation, as I was watching it, I was thinking like, is this supposed to be really upsetting and surreal and not make sense, or is this just clumsily written? And
you're supposed to feel icky while she talks to you. You're like, oh.
Yeah, but it's just like, the way that she's bringing up that conversation and talking in that conversation isn't believable, but also, which, is fine and that makes sense, but also Saga is not particularly believable in that conversation either. And that's where I was wait, what is going on now at this point?
Because Saga has like a lot of traits that just aren't believable, like the way that she just like walked into that like scary tree and then was like, Casey, can you hear me? And it's like, no, you walked into a scary dimensional door. He's not going to pick up. But I just kind of keep telling myself that she's written like the main character. So she has like main character brainworms where like that's why she just kind of does this stuff. And like she brushes things off that would be really convenient if she dug into them, and she like jumps like headfirst into danger instead of thinking like, what's FBI protocol? Is this like, am I doing my job correctly? So that's how I'm just kind of trying to get through it.
Yeah. And that that conversation was another one where it's like they seem to just be telling you the plot straight out, and it's like, well, wait, is this supposed to be a revelation in like 20 hours when it's like, oh wait, my daughter actually died a long time ago, just like Rose told me, like flat out back in the diner, like, and so it's like, well, it can't be as blatant as it seems to be telling us that it would be. So what is the twist going to be?
Well, you're getting too far ahead of yourself, Jeff. I mean, what did you make of that idea of, like, when she was talking to her husband, at least the father of Logan, her daughter, and then the guy's like, oh yeah, she slipped in the shower and just about drowned, but I was there and I caught her. Like, isn't that kind of a deflating of everything that?
Unless she's making the entire thing up in her mind, or she's a character in a story and her, things are changing around her. But it's just like, my point is, like, it's too straightforward to be it. Like, if you're going to write a twist, you don't tell the people what the twist is at the beginning of like the story.
Sure.
But it's also like she's now pondering it, and that's where I get into the area of like, well, but is it this clumsy, or are they going to subvert that and do something, like completely different? If 30 hours from now we're like, wow, it turns out Saga was a character the whole time and her daughter never existed or drowned, it would be like, what the hell, man? But right now I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that there's different mysteries afoot, and these are just kind of red herrings, I guess.
You might be the only person who's playing the Alan Wake series, Jeff, and saying, this is too normal and on the nose for me. I get it.
She could be like aware of other possible story threads or like lost ideas, like originally that her daughter was going to die. Or something.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Or if it's like, if that ties into like Scratch rewriting, the draft, like the stories or whatever, maybe those things are changing and Rose somehow knows that those things are. But yeah, so there have been a couple moments where it's like, wait a minute, they're telling us something that would be big.
Right.
But so therefore it can't be that.
Yes.
And what are they going to do instead? Yeah.
Ryan writes in on Patreon and they say, when I got into town for the first time and I started wandering around before going to the diner, I did find it a little odd that the NPCs in town don't really react to Saga when you approach them. It initially made me think of The Sixth Sense and maybe Saga isn't real, but then I remember that she had interacted with the police officers at the murder site. Still, I wonder why they didn't have more reactive NPCs. It definitely makes Saga into a bit of a weirdo who's just standing around eavesdropping while other people talk. And Darkfish Days also wrote in saying, I wish I could talk to the NPCs in town. Before going to the morgue, I saw a woman in a suit and tie who was pacing around a dumpster. She was patting her pockets like she lost something. I desperately wanted to ask who she was and what she was looking for.
The NPCs behave very strangely. Because, like, I saw a guy that kept, like, looking for traffic. Like, he kept sticking his head out and, like, looking and then backing up. And then he would, like, and there was no cars on the road at all. And I'm like, is this just, like, because I'm in a story or... But the pigeon lady talks to you. I scared that lady's pigeons away and she was like, I hate you.
I had a couple people say hi to me too and I walked up to them. Like, I would just walk near them within 5 feet and they'd be like, hi there. And then just like keep walking. That's about it though.
Yeah, and the I'm glad they mentioned the like in the police when basically everything goes crazy in the morgue and it's like one sheriff just gets brutally murdered and then you just walk out and it's like, yeah, crazy things happen there.
Yes.
One guy's gone and they're like, oh gee, that sounds bad.
There's a body against the door. Over. Yeah, it slumps into the room they're in.
Yeah.
The only two survivors they're not, like, leave.
Yeah, are the FBI and they're like, oh God, well, that's kind of crazy. By only two people who survived the murders.
We heard gunshots and there are like our coworkers are all over the floor mutilated and but okay, well, good luck with that. It's like, what the hell is going on?
That's happened in this town in 10 plus years.
It is weird. Yeah, Hammer Parsa wrote in about that exact thing. Like, it's supposed to be a small town. They're supposed to all know each other. It is just bizarre. And like they talk a little more if you go back to them after the door opens and stuff and they're going in, but they don't have that moment of like, Jesus Christ, our friend's on the floor dead. Like, it's really nothing like that.
Maybe we shouldn't have let those two strangers just walk out.
Let's see. Yeah, so the town, I kind of had that feeling where it seemed like they were trying to encourage you to like explore the town. I'm like, what should I be doing here? Like, can't really talk to people. I found like, a stash of cult goodies, yada, yada, yada. I played their little Simon Says game to unlock the stash. But in general, I was feeling like, am I missing a lot of activities in this town?
Maybe that's more for like people who liked Alan Wake 1 and they're like, we're back in Bright Falls.
Yeah.
There are some TV shows, like the two brothers that do the
Yes.
tours. I am obsessed with them. I can't wait to. I've only found 2. I hope I didn't miss any in the first area, but they're like my new favorite thing. They're so funny. Like that kind of stuff, I guess, is all you're really looking for.
Sure. Tyler Kasishke writes in and says, the first commercial for the Koskela Brothers Adventure Tour had me laughing. I always love seeing Remedy's dumb TV shows and commercials in their games. Quote, and that's why at Koskela Brothers Adventure Tours, we say, F the government. And then James Altman also wrote in about that. F the government. We have bolt cutters when they're shutting stuff down. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I was like starstruck when I actually saw one of them in game. Like, I did not think that they were going to be actual in-game characters.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, I love your work. Like, this is incredible. Can I also have the bolt cutters? Because I really need some bolt cutters.
Right.
It makes me laugh when you go to Saga's Mine Place. Not Mine Palace, Mine Place.
I always think it's Mind Palace too. What
It's
is that?
confusing because she
It is a Mind Palace.
She says it's like a Mind Palace idea, but I call mine the Mind Place. It's like, what?
She says that? Oh,
yeah,
weird.
yeah, she totally says Mind Palace.
Yeah, it's my take on a Mind Palace.
Let's see. I mean, somebody wrote in about that exact thing. Oh, I lose it now, but talking about like, is it like a copyright issue? Like, I don't think so. But an idea like that. But anyways, it makes me laugh just thinking about Saga trying to solve these murders and this horrible mystery, yada, yada, yada. But then also she's just looking so intently at the most obnoxious TV commercials of all time. It's like, these adventure tours wrestling a stupid bear and stuff. And she's like, everything gets equal intensity from her.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Mind Place?
Let's talk about the Mind Place.
Yeah.
Talk about it?
Yeah.
For me, that feels like a shoe-in for best thing.
Ooh, for the 210s.
Adore the Mind Place. And they talk about the finding that they hold that they have the necklace, the Bookers. That was so cinematic in that I was like looking around, seeing if there's anything I missed. I'd done the conversation. As I'm walking out, I'm going towards the door. I'm like, wait a minute, let's see what I can do in the Mind Place. And stopping at the door to do that and putting it together and then coming back in to have that further conversation with them. That felt so cinematic. And like something that I did. Like I really love that once it tells you when you're stuck, go to the Mind Place.
Yep.
And then every time since then, it's like, oh, I feel stuck. Oh, right, I should go to the Mind Place. And it always gives me my next thing to do, but it doesn't lay it on too thick. It doesn't give the little button pop up to go there or anything. I really like that.
Yeah, I do like it so far. I do wonder if by the end of the game, it'll start feeling a little more rote of just kind of like, okay, this thing here. Oh, I guess this wasn't for this section here, but whatever, I'll just put it down here. But Connor Hills put it really well, where they say, I adore the Mind Place. I've seen some frustrations that it doesn't provide the ability to solve the game's underpinning mysteries. Personally, I feel like that's a misunderstanding of its purpose. It feels akin to Final Fantasy XVI's active time lore, Sarah.
Great. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
While you aren't actively cracking the case, much like the actual Mind Palace technique, placing each plot development helped me remember a great deal more than I otherwise would. There's a clunk to placing things, but I like the effort to make collectibles more compelling. That's it.
It keeps you active in what's going on. Like that just being a quest log in your pause menu would be so much weaker than like getting a complete sense of what's going on for you right now and what pieces still need to be filled in. I think it's such a great marriage of gameplay and story.
I agree. That's it.
That's it. Wow. Jason Wojnar says the case board slows down the gameplay too much. Remedy games have always felt fast while not sacrificing a good narrative, but here it feels like the game has barely started after 6 hours of gameplay. I hope things speed up. It definitely does. I mean, it is that feeling of like, all right, nothing to do. Go to the Mind Place, move some pictures around, and you'll get a new objective.
I feel like Alan's Mind Place made so much more sense because you can actually change and like flip through the different storylines.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Which like that I feel like legitimized it, and it feels like they were like, well, we need something for Saga, and it's like, I hope you like sticker books. And you're like, you're telling me the only thing that's standing between me and like the next thing in the plot is that I didn't like put a little picture of a heart on the wall. Even though it's like, I'm finding it a little tedious, especially in Saga's case. I hope they actually let me like solve a mystery instead of just like make a scrapbook about it.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's kind of the dividing line. I appreciate it from the perspective of everything that Leo has said as like a mechanism for remembering things and kind of clarifying as you're going along. But it is like when I see a detective board in a game, that puts me into deduction mode, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna solve something here, and that's just the trappings for this game to tell you the story that it wants to tell you.
Yeah.
And so that has it took me a while to get over that and just be like, okay, this isn't a Sherlock game, or like the first thing I thought, Leo, was Shadows of Doubt, which is like the version where it's like you're actually doing all this yourself, and it's just
Your whole case board could be completely wrong in Shadows of Doubt.
Yes, and it frequently was. But yeah, and here it's just like, yeah, this is kind of it's just the visual way that they're explaining, their story as they're walking you through it, but there's no actual deduction to it.
I think what it is, maybe for me, something I really love in books is when something that books do great is, let's drill down on this moment. This lasts 2 seconds, but here's everything that's going through their mind, all the decisions they're weighing, every little thing that's happening. I love when books can do that. And this is kind of almost doing that, of like, here's exactly how she's feeling about this at the moment. Because you're literally pressing a button to go inside her mind, which, and you know what? I only think of it saying it right now. That, books, writer, Alan Wake, book stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like the inner monologue of a third person narrative is lost in games unless it's just like constantly yelled at you.
Right.
And the first game did it well with the manuscript system where you could just read those if you wanted. So like maybe like a good marriage where everyone would be happy is like you could go in the mind place and do it if you're stuck. You know those feelings when you're like, what do I do? Like you're down at the lake and you're like, ugh, and you don't know you're supposed to go back up and like look at his heart. You could go in and do it if you wanted and do all the strings, but if you don't do that, it's not like her thinking out loud, I think I have to go look at the heart, and then you're allowed.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have been like both, because I would have gone and done the strings anyways, because I liked the feeling of like understanding things, but I also hated, like Jeff was saying, when I thought I did everything, I just had to add one sticker, and then she let me look at the heart. Like I was like, oh, that doesn't feel great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fair. I do think it not pausing the game is a good thing, though. I think it creates this pace where you are terrified, fighting for your life, and you are like, I need to get to a moment where I can stop and collect myself. And gamifying that action of like taking a breather is really interesting. And of course, at some point, they're going to jump scare you, even when you do it in a safe spot. There's going to be a built-in jump scare, and I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
I also weirdly love how it'll be like pouring rain, and then you'll go to your mind palace or writer's room, and it's like cozy and warm, and you're not wet, and you're just like, you like feel safe for a second. That's like a very nice gaming feeling.
Yeah. Koshimitsu wrote on Patreon asking like, oh, I like the idea of the mind place, but I'm looking for a more straight up detective game, because this one isn't really the true detective game, but you guys mentioned it, Shadows of Doubt from this year. It's still early access, but that's what you're going for. Let's see. Cozy wrote in, I find Saga's case board unsatisfying, but I don't think Remedy was going for a real investigation. Her mind place is a reskinned journal that helps pace exploration and combat and varies how much info is communicated to us. Their games have focused on telling a focused, fairly linear story, and I think allowing us to make errors would slow down the pace too much. But it definitely is a missed opportunity. Conversely, Alan's writer's room is such a great feeling mechanic. The dread you feel when changing a scene to something darker sends goosebumps across my skin and a smile across my face.
The typewriter sound, and then everything changes.
Yeah.
Wow, like you can sense the time it takes for the page to go shink and oops, and that's when it switches. Like, oh, that's
Immaculate.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for that great Remedy presentation that was so stellar in Control and is amazing here. And with Saga's, this we're talking about, of course, it is simple. There's only one right thing to do that can be frustrating and slow. The sound it makes when you put the thing on the board, I like that. That makes my brain feel good.
Yeah,
it does make my brain feel good.
It is weird with Alan Wake's gameplay how it's like, okay, you have the light, you got the lamp that can change the environment.
It's the thing from Harry Potter that Dumbledore has, by the way.
The Dumbledore stick that changes the environment. But then also you go into the writer's room, his little attic with the owl, and then there you can also change the environment in a bunch of different ways. It's like, it's a weird thing to overlap on top of each other on top of a game that kind of has some confusingly laid out environments, or more realistically, it's just there's not an objective marker on the screen. So it's like combining all of that led to, I think, some frustrating moments, a little bit of like, okay, what is changing in this confusing environment and what level of it's changing? Because there's 2 different levels of variation on top of a confusing layout.
That's interesting. Do you have like an example of when that happened?
I think the subway, was the big one.
Subway?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I got stuck on the entrance because it just said Caldera Station, and the whole time I was like looking for an above ground police station.
That happened
That's
to me
where
too,
my mind
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Haley, I was worried about you because you were streaming today before the recording and you didn't have that much time. And I was like, I was stuck in that subway for a while. So like, I hope Haley's smarter than I am. And it turns out you are. You just flew right through it. So no big deal.
It was longer than I thought. Like Sarah was in there when I thought I was like, and now I'm done. And then it was like, you're still Alan Wake. I was like, oh, I kept playing. Like, oh, I guess this, I hope I do it.
The weird trip
done.
to his apartment, I feel like was more for people who played the first Alan Wake game in Control, because I was like, I'm going to your apartment that you no longer live in because you got divorced, and I'm watching your wife.
Yeah.
That was a kind of a weird part for me. Like, it was a cool part, but it did feel a little like this is going to probably return later, but it was just kind of awkwardly there at the end of like such a running from the dark place and like scrabbling through a hole. And then it's like, I think I'll stop by home before I leave. Just one more stop.
And barely anything will happen.
That was a kind of a treat for the AWE players, because like Leo and I just played that, and all of the notes were about, or like all the ones at the end after you fought that boss, Leo. Remember we found like Alice was like, there's a guy in my apartment, he looks like my husband, he's freaking me out, I'm taking pictures. And then like you found a picture of Mr. Scratch like going like rah, like chasing, like running at the camera.
In this woman's life, like her only sin was like marrying a bad man, like, and now she's being tortured by this guy. Like, I can't. But like, she's a photographer, so she's like low-key kind of into it. And then she's like, I made it my work.
She's monetizing it, yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
I was just thinking, like, it would be such a better game if it was Alice Wake. Like, it would make a lot more sense, like, down the rabbit hole, like, trying to get out, like,
she was done dirty in the first game. She was a nothing character. She was like, help! That was Alice in the first game. That was it. Did not pass the Bechdel test. Control shot the Bechdel test in the chest. It was the most women talking to women about nothing else, no men at all. It was awesome. But the first
women
Alan
talking
Wake,
to women about objects.
about objects of power. But Alan Wake 1 was like, everyone just said Alan Wake over and over again. That's the plot of Alan Wake 1.
Yeah, Ampex wrote in about that exact idea of the Controls AEW DLC. We find an interview with Alice Wake conducted by the AWE. To be fair, I only saw that graffiti in the game 400 times so far, so it's tough to remember.
Alan Elite Wake.
We find an interview with Alice Wake conducted by the FBC. In the interview, she reveals that she had recurring nightly visitations from not Alan, but from a monster in his body. She also says that she positioned cameras with motion sensors in an attempt to capture an image of him. Attached to the document is a photo of Alan screaming with a bright light shining in his face. This is in Controls DLC. But I believe in Alan Wake 2, we just played through the moment when that photo was taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really cool
true,
idea.
because you run through all the light, like transferring things, those light things, and then that's how you get into the apartment. True.
It's a real Home Alone setup. That is such a funny idea of her being like, I had a bunch of nightmares, so I just set up a bunch of Home Alone style traps to take pictures of these things. And like, you mentioned it, Haley, but it is such a weird idea that she makes some reference to like Alan Wake being the big successful writer. He was making money. Look at me. But now she's like monetizing photos of her nightmares. And she just has an art exhibit called The Dark Place. Like, this is such a weird idea. But
so
I guess
she clearly knows about it some way. But like, when she got interviewed by the FBC, and she either didn't tell the FBC what really happened, maybe, or she just straight up doesn't know. I don't know what it is. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin writes in, nailing my favorite moment as well. They say, one of my favorite graphical details in Control was the live action Dr. Darling videos playing in the game. And how you could pick up the projector and move the picture around. The way Alan Wake 2 blends live action and gameplay feels so seamless. And I found that watching Alice's art intro play in their apartment, it was incredibly moving. I had Alan stand really close to the screen, and the way Alice's hand with the wedding ring still projected onto his back is one of my favorite moments in gaming this year.
She still has her wedding ring on?
Apparently.
He does too. I didn't notice that.
God.
I didn't notice that she still has it on.
This is the magic of this game, is like, this is the moment that slayed me, is having live action Alice on the wall. And I'm like, okay, it's a projector. Are they going to do this? And being able to walk as a video game character and having the live action projection on Alan's back. Come on. That's one of the coolest ideas I've seen in a game. That's such a small thing, but incredible.
Great
I feel like
tech.
we're going to see it so much more now, like that they've kind of ripped the Band-Aid off of everyone being like, oh, heck yeah, this is sick. Now we're going to see it implemented in a lot more different ways. Like, how are we in 2023 and it's not more of a thing? That feels like such a cool, maybe some people view it as lazy because like they could have animated that, but I think it's rad. And especially when the character looks just like the actor is the character's face and stuff.
Exact same as instantly warping into the mind place. It's like, we could do this? Why haven't we been doing this?
It's 2023.
Yeah. We had plenty of FMVs back in the 90s, Haley. It's just they weren't cool back then. They aren't incorporated into gameplay in this way. But even just like the small things, of just like seeing the typewriter slowly fade in live action as you're wandering around, or like the Max Payne sequences from Alan's sections where you just see Alex Casey and the shadows are live action of like the silhouette of him are live action. It's like that. Oh, it's so good. I mean, okay, a lot of people wrote in about this. Haru wrote in, says, I've really been blown away by the implementation of FMV in this game. Some of the moments you see Alex Casey during the echoes, it truly looked and blended with the game graphics like he was standing in the actual environment. And then Shoji Kodo says, the game looks so visually and technologically stunning. I'll catch myself just sitting there with my mouth agape. It's mind-blowing how well the game combines and transitions seamless between gameplay, in-game cinematics, and FMV, sometimes in rapid succession or all at once. The instant snappiness of going between the game world and Saga's mind space, or using Alan's angel lamp to transition between structures and spaces, everything just feels so nicely done. Truly bananas. Sarah, you like those videos?
They're great videos. They look great. I love them. The actors are good at doing their acting.
Too much Alan Wake.
We got it. It is. It is. It's a cool, weird thing. And it's like, I guess, why don't more people do this? Making games seems impossibly difficult. And then also just like, I don't know how you plan all this out. Like, what does the shot list look like when you're getting all these weird pickup shots of, I don't know, Sam Lake grinning on a couch that you overlay in this one section here? Like, how much is done just in the post process, and how much is like, okay, we need this shot of this silhouette here for this scene, and then this level change, so we need different live action videos. It's just such a mess in a good way.
It makes you wonder what costs go into shooting a live action scene like the Mr. Door scene versus if that was animated. Does it cost infinitely less to animate it? Or is it way more to...
You don't have to pay the actors. And then you don't have to pay the people who set up the set. It's all...
You still have to pay the motion capped actors because they're probably sitting and stuff. But then
there's no like makeup, there's no costume.
Yeah.
I assume the costs would be higher for live action.
Yeah. I wonder. And like where...
With animation costs though after the fact, I don't know. I feel like part of the reason they would do live action is because it makes like long cutscenes like Alice talking, like they just have to shoot her in an empty room.
Yep.
That's true. But I was saying for like when they're in the studio space.
Yeah.
Getting the people.
For sure.
Yep.
They have to rent the studio. They have to pay all the actors. They have to buy all the stuff to sit on and like reference, print the book with the book page on it. Like that stuff seems like that should cost $2, but in reality it probably costs like $400 to print the books. You know what I mean? It's like weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have enough to talk about here without going on tangents, but real quick, Tamago in the chat says, so insanely hyped for Max Payne on Northlight. It just clicked with me. Their Max Payne remake. Remedy, no chance that's just a regular remake of the first game. They're going to get Final Fantasy VII on it.
Yeah, I bet you're right. And I feel like they're already doing it. And I feel like this game, even though they can't legally bring Max Payne into this universe, I feel like so much of this game is kind of hyping up the Max Payne reboot of like, hey, here's Max Payne's voice with Sam Lake's face. You want it? Here it is, everybody. Get ready for the big remake coming soon.
I've been thinking from a legal perspective how much tongue-in-cheeky they're being about the Max Payne 3 character in here that I'm like, is this copyright infringement? I don't think so. But like, it's like getting close enough that I'm like, not that Rockstar ever would, because what a bad look to like come in here and be like, that's ours, even when it's like
So
when it's as
lame.
meta as it is. But I don't know, yeah, like just the fact that Sam Lake is his face, but that's also, he owns the likeness to his face, so he's allowed to like be in his own games, but then you might try to argue he signed his likeness away when he was Max Payne, and then it's like this whole complicated problem. I don't know. That probably no one will ever actually care about. I'm just reading into it.
Well, Green Mountain State cares, Haley, because Green Mountain State writes in and says, let's get the most important thing out of the way here. Could Haley shed some light on having to scroll through 2 license agreements before accepting? Did Haley read them all for Alan Wake 2?
I skimmed them at the start of the stream. You can go and skim them with me. I really like the way they draft the license. It was really good. They bullet point every. It's almost there's specific terms you put in front of a license, like non-exclusive, sublicensable, transferable. Like these are all very specific words. And they sit down, they go non-exclusive, and then they go comma. This means that not only you can engage with our work, lots of people can, and they like explain it in a very easy way. And I was like, that's really nice. And something else I thought was weird was Epic is the party with you in the terms, not Remedy. But then Remedy is the party in the privacy policy.
Why
and
is
their
that?
privacy policy was really short, and they should have GDPR compliance because they're a Europe company. But anyways, I thought it was weird that Epic was the party with the terms.
Huh.
That makes me think that maybe Epic owns the IP.
No.
I don't know.
No,
I don't think so either.
No.
But that's just not a common thing. And usually only the party that owns the IP is the party you're engaging with in the terms. It was just kind of like a weird, like, why'd they do that? I don't know.
Interesting.
If for people not familiar, Haley's a video game IP lawyer. This is why she knows so much about this stuff. I thought it was weird, just as a layman from the outside. It's weird. They're like, oh, Epic funded this game, but then it wasn't developed in Unreal. It's such a weird thing for a game in 2023. It's like the Northlight engine, you know?
Yeah.
Getting back to Saga's Frontier, Joe Make It Unclear writes in and says, leading up to that autopsy scene, Saga assures everyone she's qualified to perform an autopsy. Seconds later, she's diving into Nightingale's guts with no gloves or
Gloveless.
sanitation.
Loveless.
Loveless.
Maybe I'm pulling a Nightingale here, i.e. showing my ass on how little I know about how autopsies work, but that makes me question everything else she's supposedly qualified to
No
do.
PPE, not even a gown on, like dirty little
pulling a
hands.
Nightingale.
Again, not a real person, so I guess whatever Saga does is fair game.
Doesn't wash her hands when she leaves. Like she just
Oh my god,
leaves.
she didn't wash her hands.
Oh, she
No.
held a gun.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm like more grossed out by Saga's like germiness than I was about the bloated body getting up and running around off the table. You can hear his feet slap.
God, and just him screaming, show me the clicker when he gets up, and then
Give me the clicker.
he's like, I'll get you when he's hiding the shadows. I didn't think that was going to be like a weird one-hit kill situation, but I thought that was a cool thing. I'm just like,
did you get killed there? The death animation's brutal.
yeah.
Ugh.
Alan Wake's death animation, or like that little cutscene where it's just like him like flickering on the ground. Like that's such a cool, weird one too.
Yeah.
I love my favorite. Well, I maybe have a lot of them. One of my favorite little moments in this section, the greatest mystery. I love what happened to the sheriff when Nightingale got up. I'm trying to remember the timeline of exactly how it worked, but
Yeah.
when he just like disappears, but he says something like, "Wait, not yet," and then he's just gone. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's such a cool Twilight Zone thing. I just love his mystery specifically, which I didn't think I would care about Sheriff Sean Ashmore in this game.
Yeah, he's cool. I like his character.
He's cool. What'd you make about seeing him later on, Haley, where he's trying to piece stuff together?
Well, I like him because he's like one of the few characters that's like takes a realistic approach. Like, we might just be dreaming, like, calm down. Just like
Right.
no one in Remedy ever says that, which it could very likely be the explanation. And I've also been having problems lately where my dreams are hyper detailed. And I was talking about that in the stream right before we met him again in like one of the side rooms. And he brought up, he's like, well, I've been having really detailed dreams. And like, maybe that's all it is. And that's just where I am right now. I'm not going to discount it. And I was like, oh my God, I was literally thinking about that the whole time. Like, that's super fair.
And this is in the Saga section where he says
No,
that?
this is Alan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rito Shot First points out he also says he has dreams that seem real. Like you.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Ampex wrote in and they said, we find Sheriff Tim Breaker humming the Night Springs theme and scribbling over a whiteboard trying to figure out who Warland Door is in the Alan Wake section. It seems he's been having visions from both Control and Quantum Break. On the whiteboard, he has written, me, but not me, which is a reference to Jack Joyce from Quantum Break, which Microsoft owns, right? So it's a weird thing
Yeah,
where
they don't own the IP
they
to
can
that.
lightly reference that. Then there's a line that says, "Others I know, yet they are different," referring to that Control and Quantum Break shares actors between main characters. They talk about the redheaded woman a lot, referring to Jesse from Control. I'm upset. I didn't realize that's who they were referring to in this game when they're talking about the redheaded woman.
These all seem so obvious now.
Yeah.
I
Let's
only
see.
knew because Chad told me.
Oh, good. Dylan Faden already had a vision and control of a Mr. Door that we then assumed was a reference to Martin Hatch from Quantum Break, who's referred to as a life form shifting between timelines. In the bottom of Tim's whiteboard, he's also written, "Is Door the gatekeeper or trying to get somewhere? Everywhere? Door, gate, portal, port, opening, access, window." I think the word Tim is looking for is hatch, says Ampex. There's a lot going on in just that quick little scene. And don't you suggest like, oh, you have Door written there. Door's the host of the show. And I feel like, isn't he kind of passive? Like, oh, I don't think that's that.
Yeah.
I forget
Yeah,
how he-
and Alec Wake isn't very assertive about that either, even though it's like the spitting
Right.
image. And he's like, I don't know, that kind of looks like the guy that I know. She'd be like, no, seriously, Tim, like, stop wasting your time. I'll take you over to the station right now. And
Or show
where
you
that
one of
guy
the
is."
many giant billboards right outside.
Oh, Haley, what is with Night Springs? Logan, Saga's daughter, is into it. And she's like, oh, I'll tell you the plot later. I'm sure that's going to be coming back in some weird way, right? But there's a reference to, I think it's in like, there's a sign in the Alan Wake section where it says like, Night Springs is not real. But it says like you wrote for it. Where does it say? Night Springs doesn't exist. It's saying that he used to write for the show on one of those.
Yeah.
So Alan Wake started as like a writer for Night Springs. That's the idea?
Yeah, like that's back when he first started. Like one of the first gigs Barry, his agent, got him was writing on Night Springs. And I realized this later, Leo. We found those scripts we were reading when we were acting it out, and we were like, these suck. It's because it's like Alan's first writing job, so like they're supposed to suck because he was like a bad writer at the time, which I didn't get at the time. I was just like, why is Alan suck at writing now? Because you find some of the scripts he wrote for Night Falls in Control. And it's like written by Alan Wake, and you're like, oh, I bet this will be great. And it's like, no, don't do it, said the scientist, but I have to, said the director. And Leo and I were acting them out. We're like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah, we
But
both
it's
had enough trust in them that we knew, like, this is intentionally this way.
horrible. But yeah, that's like the like you can find Nightfall's episodes in Alan Wake 1, like you're finding the brothers' adventure tours in this one. And then Control, it's the Threshold children. There's always like a show you can like go and find on the TVs. And Nightfalls is like, it's like the Twin Peaks episodes that he helped write. And actually one of the ways he tries to get out is writing like a Night Falls episode. They mention at one point, like he tries that form of writing to get out, like a tropey story from a TV show, and it didn't work. He still was stuck 13 years later. So guess, oh well.
Yeah, so they're going for, yeah, it's supposed to be like a Twilight Zone. And I remember there's a real heartbreaking moment when we visited Remedy back at Game Informer for the Quantum Break cover story. We did like a rapid fire with Sam Lake. And in it we asked like, what's your favorite episode of Twilight Zone? Because like, well, he's got to be in Twilight Zone because of Night Springs and all this. That's the name of the show, right? Am I blanking? Night Springs is the name of the show? Okay.
No, you got it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then Sam Lake's just like, the one with the ghost town or something? And I'm like, what? I don't remember a Twilight Zone about that. There probably is. And then like, I remember he's like, I haven't really watched a lot of Twilight Zone. Like everyone just assumes he's a huge Twilight Zone fan because Night Springs is in here, but no, not so
so
much.
fair.
Maybe he's caught up now. I don't know. So at this point, Saga calls Nightingale a Taken. There's a page that describes him as a Taken. What is technically a Taken, Haley?
The shadow people. Like if
Okay.
you get taken by the dark presence, you're taken. That's just like the word they give it, kind of like The Walking Dead calls them walkers, I guess. Is
Okay.
the closest word they could get to it.
Okay, got it. I need to go fix my light, by the way. People in chat are saying that I'm being healed right now because my light just blasted into overdrives.
Is he going to leave this part in, do you think, or is he going to cut it?
I think he'll leave it in because we're so charming even without him.
Right, we're doing a great job of filling the time.
Especially you, Leo. You're really
already
carrying
got
the
it.
weight right now.
Yeah, thanks. But I think we're all doing our part.
By the way, if you're enjoying this conversation, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, everybody. Unlock the podcast version. If you're still on YouTube watching this, What's the matter with you? Get out of here.
You could be on the go.
You could be climbing a goddamn mountain. You could be going to the Pacific Northwest, whatever you want. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show. Let's see. Just real quick, I really liked, they're setting up the importance of finding these manuscript pages around the environments. Oh, you got to pick it up. You got to read all these. They're also so important, and we're incorporated into them, yada, yada, yada. And so wandering around the police station, I was like, oh, it's a page. I got to go pick it up. And I went over and grabbed it, and it was in the bathroom. And it was just like a note on the wall that was like, hey, who's ever stealing toilet paper, stop it. This is a police station. You can't steal toilet paper. But I'm just looking up like, oh, okay, this is just an actual note. This isn't some manuscript that's magical hanging on the wall here. All right. It's cool, I guess.
Alan Wake writing that, the worker stole the toilet paper, put it in his bag.
Mr. Scratch loves writing about toilet paper.
I'm trying to remember if there's a toilet paper altered object in Control.
Probably.
Object of power.
Haley, did you lose your mind when they have the FBC folks checking that station?
That was cool. Yeah, I liked that. And you can go read the note inside, and it's whoever finds this next, someone's messing with our stuff. It's not raccoons. So maybe they're hinting that someone from the bureau is going to come later. And at the end of that DLC, they mentioned that, I can't remember her name, but there's an agent that's supposed to be on site in Bright Falls, dealing with this stuff. Or
yes.
Esquivez. I wonder if maybe I'm saying that wrong. I wonder if she's going to show up later. I really think she is, because they reference her a lot in Control. And I think they even don't they reference her quickly in this too? Isn't the guy who's fixing it mentions that she's his boss or something, and they told him to do that? I can't really remember, but I have a feeling she's going to be a character maybe a bit later that ties Control in a bit more.
Okay. Because
she's the one who dealt with the aftermath of Alan Wake's AWE and was trying to fix things. And she's the one who took Dr. Hartman into custody, the doctor from the first game who was using Alan to try to figure out what was going on in Cauldron Lake. And she so she's the one who would know the most about Alan's AWE from a confidential side, things that Saga doesn't know. So it'd be kind of cool if she showed up and she's like, oh, you're FBI, I guess I can tell you this, and just lore dumped on her. That might work.
Tim writes in and says, Alex Casey made a joke about not being able to blame the Walking Dead Nightingale on sulfuric fumes, which is a cliched excuse for a government cover-up in sci-fi. When we run into Steven from the FBC, he says it's a monitoring station. He's looking for toxicity readings from volcanic activity. So the FBC is now using that cliched excuse, which is a nice touch.
Right. That's nice.
It is, I guess, part of kind of the surreal nature of Saga and all this stuff, but it is funny how it's just it so quickly shifts into well, I guess we're dealing with a monster. This thing came awake. She doesn't have the full breakdown you'd expect a person to have if suddenly there's a monster that attacked her after the heart was ripped out. It's it's mentioned, but not dwelled on in the biggest way, And it made me laugh when, in her mind place, when she just puts up a clue photo and it says, victim of cult, oh boy, I can talk. And just said, victim of cult killing became a monster. On this day, he became a monster.
Why only him? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Wasteland Hound writes in and says, I'm many years removed from my woods exploring days, but I remember how disorienting and unnerving it could be to emerge from the dark shadows of the woods into the orange light of dusk. The game captures that feeling perfectly. There were at least 3 or 4 times that I thought I saw a figure in the distance only to get closer and realize it was just a log or a trick of the light. Yeah, amazing woods in this game.
The lighting is crazy. If you flash a flashlight into the dark of the woods, it's 100% what it looks like in real life when you do that, and it's so scary looking.
Yeah. And the thing that gets me too is I think it's tough to make a forest environment in the game because okay, you don't want to be lost, but you want to be slightly disoriented. Having the trail not be just obvious path going through the woods, but it always feels I think this is the trail. And it always kind of works out. That level is just such a tough thing to balance, I'd imagine, for environment designers, but they nail it here. Those
little landmarks that remind you where you are, that one street light that's fully lit near the general store.
Right.
And the witch's sign with
the
hole in it.
Yeah. Joshua Duproy says, what'd y'all think of the optional open area section that comes directly after the boss fight with Nightingale? It felt a little weird to place this right after such a climactic battle, and especially when the first thing you'd want to do is return back to town and talk to Alan Wake. What'd y'all think of this?
Oh, the beach?
I think so, yeah.
And the north half of the map kind of opens up optionally.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Go to that house with the kids' room and stuff.
Oh,
I thought that part was interesting because it looked like it was alluding to Saga's story. Because it was the mother crow left the nest and it left, the hero tried to save the baby crow, but the wolf came in when it wasn't looking. And I'm like, is this alluding to something? Since they told us Saga's child was going to drown? Is this because they were trying to communicate with something across in the darkness. So I wonder if they're trying to interpret things before they're about to happen. Because there's all those video cameras set up and recording equipment. So I thought that was interesting. But I thought the best part was that I got attacked by a wolf. And I killed it. And then I went up to one of those national park signs. And it was gray wolves are very endangered. And they roam these forests. And I was like, oh, what have I done?
I ran away from the wolf. I couldn't kill him. He was too cute.
I hunted it down. I was sick of it. It kept creeping on me. And I was like,
yeah,
I got a gun.
Yep. I love
the wolf AI was scary.
Yeah, but it's such a innate thing, I guess, in humans, but just being in the dark woods and having a wolf sprinting around and you can't quite keep up with it. And then just it has a little distortion in it, in the model too, where it's not quite real. That really freaked me out.
The freakiest thing was when you walked up to it and it was you can double tap S to quick turn. And I was like, quick turn? Why would I need to quick turn? And then it was the wolf appears and then it immediately teleports right behind you.
Yeah. Bad Shot Alex asked, did anyone else have to cheese the wolf fight? The wolf moved way too quick for me to line up my shot, so I ended up using the overhead light to get a shot off, then run in circles till it came back on.
My dog would come in the room when we're talking about killing dogs, by the way.
Oh, we wouldn't shoot you, buddy. Even if you attacked us in the woods, I promise.
Yeah, if you leave or if you shoot from in there, it sparks and turns off.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about, I know I've said this a couple times, my favorite part. This is genuinely, hang on. The projector is my first favorite part. The sheriff disappearing is my third favorite part. My second favorite part is after the Nightingale boss fight. Oh, I thought this was so cool. When, reality's breaking down, you're in the overlap, yada, yada, yada. But you're just walking through the woods and then it starts to fade and you're in the subway tunnel. You know what I'm talking about? And it's just this feeling of as you're walking forward, it's we're getting into this New York subway tunnel and it just feels the perfect feeling of just trying to break through this barrier to get through to this other world and other dimension. It's just not quite there yet. I just felt that push and pull in such a unique way. And then you get drugged back and it's oh, I'm in the Pacific Northwest still. It's God damn it. I thought I was going to bust through that membrane, whatever that was. It's such a cool thing.
I forgot about that. After doing the subway part, that hits so different too.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel so much hyperbolic stuff playing through segments like that. It's why don't more companies make art? Why don't they have artists on their staff that make their stuff look cool?
Every developer just got so mad at you. I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
They make that a priority in such a unique way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels very fresh in its visuals. Don't feel like anything else I've seen in a long time.
Yep, for sure. Brian Stanley says, Remedy's visual flares are in full force in Alan Wake 2. Proximity to the Taken trigger a breathing screen appearance like in the first game. Oil slick mist sprayed out of defeated enemies like in Control. Now spectrum sparks fly from my beam of light when I shine the darkness away. This game is almost as colorful and trippy as Super Mario Bros. Wonder, says Brian.
I love it.
Yeah, flashlight effects.
A game we all hate.
That's right. Thanks, you too. Gabe B writes in, and they're just talking about how impressive the instantaneous switching to the writer's room and mind spaces. It's so cool.
But it's
so key.
faster than bringing up my menu, which is what's confusing. I hop into the mind place instantly, and then I bring the menu up, and it's you can hear the dial-up going in the background. They'll probably patch it out, but it's I'm I can't see.
Control had insane load times for if you switch to an area in the same general location, it was less than a second load time. It was
really?
Spooky weird to one point that I loaded and thought I was still in my first area and I hadn't switched to my new location because there was no way it was that fast at loading.
Oh God.
It must be their engine able to do it maybe.
I was struck in the section just finding Alan Wake this early in the game. Like when he's just coming out of the lake and she's going and talking to him, I was like, wait, what? So what's the whole New York part that I knew I was going to play as Alan Wake, like in a weird dark place version of New York City? I'm like, how does this even work? It's so weird that like, I thought this would be the end of the game having those two interact, but it's so cool that it's pretty early on. Like, nope, he's just going to be here. And then it's going to be a confusing reality time shift to actually play as him in the dark place.
I think I prefer that than like up to Saga seeing him, then switch to Alan, and then they meet.
Yep.
I like seeing it from like both sides, which makes sense because they're quite literally like on different sides of reality. Like, what the blah, blah, blah. So we can see how hard it is to see Saga from Alan's perspective, and then alternatively Saga talking to Alan.
Yep.
Who doesn't need help with anything, but could use a little help.
It's got it under control.
Michael Lane writes in and says, I spent so much time in this section poring over every corner of this area looking for collectibles and item stashes. It's a testament to Remedy's top-tier level design and fascinating world building that I actually care about finding all the text logs and collectibles in their games. My eyes typically glaze over when I encounter optional text in games because I find their inclusion very inconsequential to the main story. But with Control and now Alan Wake 2, they not only feel substantial, but these extra tidbits are so well written and go a long way to actually add to the game's narrative.
And they're not too long. They're like 2 or 3 paragraphs always. They know not to make it a 3-page thing. You don't want to take a break from playing that long.
Yeah.
It's equally well written and perfectly short. That's what makes them work for me. Can we talk about the lunchboxes?
Let's talk about those lunchboxes, man.
What's going on with those?
They are.
I liked when they called Alan Wake God because it puts into my narrative that he is somehow like the god of this like metaverse.
Yeah. Totally.
That's all I have to cling to. I don't know what the hell's going on.
No, God of the Metaverse, just like our Lord and Savior over at Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, yeah.
Of course. They're aware of Alan Wake in that role, and they also treat Saga as like
they call her the
protagonist
hero.
That they love. Yeah. They say,
they're like, don't worry, hero. Yeah, you'll come out on top.
Yeah, or else you wouldn't be the hero. Yeah, I feel like that was an interesting one to find. That is a big window into what's going on there, maybe.
Yeah, Beefcake also wrote in about it, like, who's writing these positive messages? What is going on? Yeah, I wonder if they'll go into it. I mean, it is funny, the idea of like, I found that lunchbox in the woods, and then Saga's like, all right, put it on the board. Let's open a case file for it. I'm like, no, it's just a lunchbox in the woods, Saga.
I haven't actually checked my lunchbox case file
it's
since
big.
I found the first one.
It's big. You got it.
Gripping.
It's gripping stuff.
Do you think it's Mr. Scratch writing to help her get to the point he wants her to get to?
No,
so he
I don't want to believe
use her
that.
against Alan?
Mr. Scratch.
No, I want to believe that it's just somebody who believes in me.
Mr. Scratch could believe in you in order to screw over Alan.
Let's see. Tim wrote in saying, I spent a lot of time exploring the Nightingale fight. Oh, after the Nightingale fight. I found a streamside stash key. I figured there's a stash in the region on the map marked as streamside. I hunted all over only to discover that the stash was only 15 feet away from the area.
I did the same exact thing.
I did the same
watched
thing, but
the
never found it.
stream, and I was like, why wouldn't they? I was like, where would they put the stream side stash? By the stream, of course. No, it was like 5 steps away.
Yeah, it was in an area called Crow's Feet and not in Streamside. Maybe they should have called it the Crow's Feet Stash Key, says Tim.
Gotta love it. They're so weird. That's so trippy that they would do that.
Oh my God.
Cool idea.
Everything Remedy does is like, everything this company does, you guys are like, what's like the bigger meaning that by putting the stream side stash, not by the stream. Oh, Scratch is at it again.
I was too dumb for what they were going for there. I want to apologize to Remedy.
Classic Sam.
For not finding it.
Gara writes in and says, I brought you the heart witch, now show me the terror. Is another in a long list of lines that are highlighted and underlined as important. And it has, in fact, resonated. The game seems to be playing with the theme of realities we choose and the real consequences we have to live with. Saga seems to love crime mysteries and is diving headfirst into this world.
She's a main character, and only main characters are this psychopath. Like, she's obsessed with it. If I found something in the woods that was like narrating my life, I'd be on the first plane out of town. But Saga's like really into it. She's like, tell me more. I want to hear more. She's
carrying
crazy.
a heart with her bare hand through the
woods.
Squinting, trying to read the text on it.
I'm so tired of her. I love her. I love her more than Alan. Okay. To be honest. Okay. But I'm just like, girl, like, we need to calm down. We have to get back to our kid. Like, we don't have time for this.
Gareth says
she's name searching herself.
There's a line later in Initiation 2, Casey, quote, Picking up Casey's gun felt like I was assuming the role of the detective. We had played Alan up until this point without a gun. Is it a tool or self-fulfilling prophecy? There's a lot
I
going
do
on
want to
here,
know, how
Greta.
does a writer have such good aim with a gun? Like, he has great firearm training for a writer.
Well, I guess even the
wrote-
first one, he kind of was decent with a gun too, right?
Yeah, there's no explanation though. He just picks it up and he's good.
He's good at everything.
But he
Mecha,
sucks at running.
Mecha Pig writes in and says, at first it was hard to take the game seriously when Saga and Alex were so unfazed by all the supernatural happenings around them. Then the last scene before we switch to Alan begins, and Saga and Alex are standing there in their sweater and suit respectively, staring at the caseboard in great contemplation. Then they take a slow, meaningful sip from their coffee mugs in perfect unison. Suddenly the charming ease of their partnership made sense. It's a single moment that adjusted my thinking and prepared me for their delightful weirdness of Alan's chapters.
I like that. That's a
Yeah.
good thought.
And it's interesting that Alex Casey is not more of an asshole. Like the
Sure.
early conversation where she's like, "Why did you bring me here? You're a really good detective." And he's like, "I brought you here because you're better at solving these things than me."
Yeah.
Like that mutual respect is there from the beginning, and that's not what you might expect with that duo.
But he is an asshole because he says, I hate nature. I hate being in the woods. Quote, there's too much sky. So it's a bold
That's a
take.
cute quirk.
Then we jump in and play as Alan Wake. Y'all, we're finally doing it. Another reason why this game was struck me, it's like, all right, you play as Alan Wake. First thing you do, you're backstage in a green room at a late night show. Like, again, other companies aren't doing this, Leo. Like, that's such a weird spot to put you when you're playing the
My
titular
quote,
character.
other
again.
companies are just not doing this. We have, what is it called? An industry disruptor.
Yeah,
Remedy
right.
Games disrupting the industry. So brave to
And
put
when this makes billions
actors
of
in their
dollars.
video games in their natural environment.
It's not since Metal Gear Solid 4's opening have we seen stuff like this. Steve Bellegarde says, I was really impressed and charmed with the dubbing during Alan's live action scenes. I know it's not the
Yeah.
same person doing the VO as the actor, so I was looking forward to it and for it to be really noticeable. I think for the most part it's dead on, but it also gives a slightly off vibe that adds to the creepy atmosphere of the dark place. So Sarah, did you catch all this?
I knew about it.
Okay.
I couldn't clock that it was like, I was like, I really can't tell.
Oh, that's a good. Okay, right on. Sarah, did the Alex Casey character seem weird to you? Like, did you clock that was Sam Lake, the creative director?
I thought that the Alec Casey kid looked like the Puffs tissue commercial kid. You know, that like little CGI boy that his nose is always red? I'll be honest, I don't know who Sam Lake is.
No,
I never played the Max Payne games.
I'm
I
weak. I know.
I thought that he looked like the Puffs tissue kid.
That's part of the larger Remedy universe, I think, is the Puffs Tissue Kid. So
The RCU.
Somebody do an AI generation of the Puffs Tissues
I
kid
just- I
doing
had
the
to
Max
look it up.
Payne face,
Yes.
and it
He
will
looks
look
like him,
him.
right? Like with the little red nose
it's
and
exactly
I
Sam
see it.
Lake.
like the buggy eyes,
Yep.
like kind of
so
pinched.
right.
So did the voice seem weird to you? Like,
No, it didn't.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I was wondering, like, if you didn't know who Sam Lake was and you're playing this game, is it weird to have that Max Payne voice coming out of it? But I guess not. That's cool. And then I guess with this case too, it's like, all right, for the live action stuff, unless you're really paying attention, you maybe wouldn't even notice that the voice actor has to match with the face model for Alan Wake, which is just a bizarre juxtaposition here.
There
I
was like
didn't
so
know
much
about that
else
and didn't
going
detect-
on
Oh, that's cool.
in that scene that I like. The last thing I was focusing on was like your lips.
Sorry, I opened the tab again of that Puffs Tissue Kid. I can't unsee
It
it.
looks like I could not get it out of my head.
It's really good. The whole time I was like, wow, he looks so different as Casper Darling. He's a great actor. That's all I thought.
Of course. But it's not Sam Lake with... Oh, wait, is Casper Darling the Alan Wake?
Voice
The
actor,
voice
right?
and the
Okay.
voice actor and the physical actor for Alan Wake are two different people too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know
That's
until right
the
now.
part. Yeah, got it. Let's see. Of course, Theo H also wrote in about that idea. Philly Eatsteak says there are a lot of fan theories about the Mr. Door mentioned in Control being Lance Reddick's character from Quantum Break, just slipping across timelines. If that was the intent, then David Harewood seems like an ideal actor to recast the character with.
Wow, R.I.P. Lance Reddick.
Yeah.
He would have been amazing.
That is an interesting idea. I wonder when they filmed this. Like, because he just died not that long ago.
The timing seems wrong for that.
Right.
Okay. Never mind. Don't R.I.P. Lance Reddick then.
Yeah, I just don't
That's what you guys prefer.
I don't feel comfortable RIPing him.
All right.
There's before I forget, on the sound design part and the voice acting part, I think this was an intentional thing. Is like when Alan Wake is coming out of the lake and you talk to him for the first time. I love that like his voice has like a slight weird echo to it. There's just like an extra reverb thing happening to him in that environment. Maybe it's a bug. I don't know, but it seemed cool. Ken H writes in and says, coming across Ati gave me a sense of calm despite them being such a strange, enigmatic character. I've only played Control once previously, so maybe it was nice having someone I recognized in the game, though.
Yeah.
Seeing Ati was really comforting.
It was. The first note he hummed, the nanosecond I first heard that, I was like, yes, here he comes. Here
Uncle
comes my
Ati.
king.
King, yeah.
The janitor's office with the big portrait of him mopping on the door. So good.
I think he's interesting that I think he's kind of like Mr. Door and that he's got to be a god or something like that, like what they were saying earlier with the like he's got to be some trickster god, like kind of guy who just knows what everything's going on and just kind of pokes his head in when he feels like he's not obligated. He just is like, this is kind of fun. Just like does whatever he wants.
It's amusing.
Yeah.
Craig Belmont wrote in and said, in Control, Ati the janitor takes a vacation at the end of a side quest and sends Jesse a postcard from Watery. Watery is a neighboring town mentioned in the radio shows in Alan Wake. So he's been on a vacation apparently in Washington for years. I don't know the timeline for when Control is supposed to happen, but But then again, I guess if they have the photo from Alan Wake 2 of Alan Wake entering the house at that moment, that's kind of tough.
No way this dude is stuck in time. No chance he's bound by that.
He's just hanging out.
Kevin K says, after the interview, you can go into Mr. Door's dressing room, and on his counter is a book by Casper Darling called My Interpretation of Many Words. Casper, being the head of research and control, has me very excited to see how it all will collide and stuff in the future. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
1-1 also loves the death scene for Alan Wake. It is cool that it goes back to him typing.
Yeah. And a bit of it's like a loading screen being hidden by that, which is like, I don't know. I appreciate a really good thought out loading screen like that is canon and adds to it.
I think this game's doing a good job so far of like reusing environments in a smart way, even having you revisit the crime scene, then going back down to the water again, yada yada. It feels different enough. And even like the studio space up here for the TV studio, I felt like it was smart to have you loop twice going through that. But it felt a little bit different. But then like both times when you go to this environment, it's like Alan Wake is immediately like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like grabbing his head, like he's just like waking up from a dream where he was shot in the head. And like the first shot of the entire game is like Alan Wake live action with like a light beam in his forehead. Does that have some connotation I haven't discovered yet? Is that going to be, you think, coming up later for like him getting shot in the head, or is that something?
Yeah, that happens at some point, didn't it? Didn't they show him getting shot in the head?
One of those like quick like like kind of scenes where it's like there's like him with a hole in his head on the ground. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe at the end of all these chapters. Yeah. Let's see. Bread talking about the Dark Place. Did anybody else obsess over the signage in the subway stations and tunnels? There were tons of unique graffiti. The signs themselves range from the Dark Place actively antagonizing Alan, outright calling him a terrible writer, to snippets of a very deliberate piece of narration from both the first game and even some from Alan Wake's American Nightmare, all formatted as if they were generic subway signage. My favorite being the subway station name shifting from Don't Sleep Street and Again Avenue to a crossing of Stop Writing Street and Wake Boulevard when you transfer over the light to open the way forward. And Von S also is like, oh my God, the signs are the best. There's so much personality. He said, Von S said, where you'd expect to see a please stand back from the platform and await the train type of warning is replaced with a sign that says, in a horror story, the victim keeps asking why, but there can be no explanation and there shouldn't be one. The unanswered mystery is what stays with us the longest.
I love it.
Perfect. Yeah, just the signage in this entire area and the graffiti. Yeah, there's so much going on. There's just a ton to read.
So much effort into something that 90% of people might just be like run by and never read or look at because it's just background imagery.
Yeah.
I love when studios care about that stuff.
Yeah, and especially most games where like if you walk around in like a city environment in a Ubisoft game and they have stores, it'll always be like pizza store, laundromat, like they
Burger
they don't put-
$90.
yeah, they don't put like any effort. It's just like exactly what it's supposed to look like, because I'm sure like you don't have the time or the resources to put stuff into that. And here it's like you'll walk past a random wall and there will be like 50 different flyers and things, and you can go up to them and it's all that kind of like, you know, like first person narrative writing that's coming from Alan Wake or Mr. Scratch or whatever, and it's all really interesting to look at. Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. Just like it's another one of those like I just want to kind of sit in this creepy atmospheric world and just like soak it in.
Haley, should we the scribbles? Should we be paying attention to those? Like what is scribbled out, trying to read what's underneath, or is that just a sign that Mr. Scratch is writing?
What scribbles are you talking about?
Just like on all the notes, how things are always scratched out, scribbled out, right?
Yeah, I think they're alluding to Scratch editing, because there's like one particular part where he picks up a manuscript and his name is scratched out, Scratch, and it's like, and then he's like, oh no, like falls down or something. They're trying. I think that's probably leading up to Mamma Mia, my novel. That's probably leading up to like more blatant, like probably there'll be some kind of imagery on the screen. I could picture them doing with like words getting scratched out on signage or something, with him like messing with you as you're trying to get through. That'd be a cute flip of the thing so far, where we're making the environments change with our typewriter. Maybe Mr. Scratch will switch it back to like the more dangerous area, and you're like, you get to like get through. That'd be cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mr. Scratch is is he in the real world walking around? That's the idea?
He's the dark presence, just manifested as one thing sometimes, just to like mess with Alan, pretty much, I think.
Okay, so he's walking around the streets of real New York City talking to Alice?
He's not talking to her. Isn't he just like harassing her?
I guess
He's kind of just like,
He like shows up in Alan Wake's writing room at night and writes a manuscript while she's like, I don't know, hiding or something. And like, why is my husband's spirit in the writing room again? Gosh darn it, let me get the camera.
Yeah, she
trying
said
to get some sleep.
She said that it was like the last 6 years ago is when she started encountering Mr. Scratch. I think there's some reference there where it's like, okay, so
I think the dark presence is out now. Like that's what Alan was trying to stop, but it's like happened. So it's out now. So that's kind of probably why he's able to influence the book, because, or like his writings, is because he's the way Alan Wake 1 ended was the dark presence was trying to get out by writing an ending to Alan's book where it like destroys the world essentially, but Alan like traps himself because the law of drama needed some kind of sacrifice in order for the dark presence to be satiated. So he was like, and I did it, and I went into the lake, and then it saved Alice and like let the dark presence stay, not destroy the world. But I can't really think of the thread where, because it is out now, but I can't really remember the plot beat where the dark presence was just like, and I'm here, and like able to influence things. I don't remember.
Yeah, it is.
Chet says that's something they said in the Control DLC, which was in some of the notes we read. Maybe that was the first time that they addressed that. But also on that note, you know, recreating the Twin Peaks diner is cute, but having the dark version of your protagonist being out for decades while your good version of your protagonist is trapped in the dark place, that's exactly Twin Peaks. That is a little straight of a lift for a main story thing like that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people wrote in about that. Let's see. We have. I like this section. I think it's when you're in the subway section, and there's just like the wall of dark chaos, and there's a moment where Alan Wake just goes, "The dark presence," and then he turns around and starts running away from it. Just, like look up behind, like
not very quickly though.
No.
It's just kind of like a light jog.
Yeah, it sums up the game well. That's just it. He just wants to get away from that dark presence. I like, even though I was a little bit frustrated and getting lost in the subway because I'm dumb at navigating spaces. I like how the areas you can't go are just like black, distorted, weird stuff where if you wander into it, it's just like, oh, how do I get out of this? Where am I right now? Is that
he didn't write those areas.
Right.
Like, that's cool.
Right, yeah.
Like he did, like that street isn't written in this story right now. So of course you just get spat back out to the place you've written.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. That's a very cool way to implement invisible walls instead of just walking up and being like, oh, okay, and turning around or just there's a lot of locked gates, but like, that's fair. We can't have everything be meta. But I think that's like one of the most unique, like, invisible wall implementations I can think of in recent memory.
Yeah.
Also, that part where you're out exploring the city before you get in the subway station, that like non-Euclidean, I have no idea if I'm using that word right, where you explore up onto this roof, you go through a door, go up, and then suddenly you're back on the street that you climbed up from.
Yeah.
That was so brain breaking, and running back through it and like making sure I was understanding it right. That was such a cool little illusion.
I didn't even realize that was intentional because that happened to me when I was leaving the subway. I was going downstairs and then all of a sudden I was out and I was like, huh? And I just kind of moved on from it, but I felt odd and like upset. And I didn't click to me that they did that on purpose to upset me.
Right.
You need to become a clicker. Yeah. Rich McLaughlin says, it took me way too long to figure out I could store multiple light charges in the subway. Anyone else get stuck here? Or perhaps I missed a tutorial? In general, it feels difficult to know when the way forward is a new area versus backtracking with the plot board. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely got lost. And on the bad tutorials thing, the light one was like, Alan can grab lights and hold on to them.
Yeah.
Was the tooltip. And I was like, how? I just had to press every button.
It didn't tell you?
No.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was looking at the UI a little bit later. I'm like, wait, there's 2 light charges? Oh, okay. I thought it was just like a quick thing, like you absorb it in your wand and then drop it someplace else. But it's like, okay, I guess
this entire section, I felt like I was just like slapping buttons at random. It's like somehow stuff was working. I would just put light where I could put light, and I would take light when I would take light, and then I would just like flip through my little storyboard, and it like somehow ended up getting through it. But if I told you how I got there, I literally couldn't.
Yeah, you align an echo here and there. Some guy talks. You get the idea. Yeah. Somebody mentioned in the chat, by the way, Jeff, you were right. Yeah. So when you encounter Alan Wake in the writing room, he does have a bullet hole in his head. And then HDBBBBB says, can we talk about Alan's study having the spiral symbol from the Ocean View Motel in it? Yeah, there's a quick reference to that too when you're walking through the house.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Max says, I like how much inspiration they took from Resident Evil. Finding a save room always feels good. Inventory management isn't as important, but still fun. And you find doors and containers you don't have the right tools to open yet. I think the shooting also feels a lot like the modern Resident Evil games and the way enemies move and how the shooting feels. Yeah, it was telling, like, I guess it would have been the Nightingale fight. Like, my first instinct was like, all right, pop him 2 in the legs. I was like, it's full Resident Evil 4 reflexes, you know, because I played so much of that this year. So it definitely comes through.
I wish the enemies weren't so spongy. They take like a full clip, some of them, and I just don't understand like that. It doesn't matter if you headshot them, doesn't matter if you hit him in the leg. It always feels like they take a ton of bullets. And even if you hit that weak point, it still kind of like empties a clip.
Yeah, that was confusing. Is like you want to hit the weak point, but also headshots do extra damage. Like I thought it was interesting. The weak point wasn't the head, but also headshots definitely are the way you bring them down. So it's like weak point and then headshot.
Because I was like trying to shoot the legs. I was like going all over the body, and I was like, let's move this a little bit faster.
Yeah, the Resident Evil 4 comparison, like it's clearly learned a lot from the successes of those games, and that's great. One thing it does better than those games that I love is the way Alan actually responds to jump scares. I really like. I feel like in Resident Evil 4, everybody's so bored by these giant unspeakable monsters, and Alan's literally going when that spooky face pops up. I love it. And when he's reloading as somebody's approaching him, he'll go shit. I really like that. I really prefer that way of doing it.
Everything's under control here, Saga. I got it. I like the it makes me laugh just having like little upgrade things for Alan where you shine the flashlight on like the yellow circle and then it's words of lamp and then just having just the phrase words of gun. Words of gun.
Words of gun.
Yeah, just words of aid. This is so silly. Let's see. Villain Mac writes in and says, I came into this game knowing that survival horror was not my thing, and I've concluded that it is still not my thing. This is extremely reductive, but when I'm playing, I can't help but feel like it's one part walking sim and one part clunky combat. I know the restricted combat is the point in horror games, but it's hard to find the fun so far in Alan Wake 2.
I don't know if it's like full survival horror. Like there's some survival horror, but I just feel like the combat is not the combat is something they put between you and the story in this game, and it doesn't really feel like, it kind of feels like they kind of have to do it. But I struggle seeing the survival aspect of it. Besides that, like you run out of bullets, sometimes you run out of batteries, but
yeah. It's if you are interested in the story, boy, this would suck for you to play. That's all there is.
That's a fair assessment.
On the Resident Evil safe room comparison too, like I like these little pockets of light with getting the coffee and the save spot, all that stuff. It's like I wish that the save rooms in Resident Evil healed you. Like that's such a nice detail. Like it'll heal you a little bit. And once I saw that upgrade as an option for like it'll heal you more, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I'm gunning for. Because that's such a satisfying feeling just to sit in the light that's like in the sound design of the light where it feels like it's like burning you. It's so bright, but then that's healing you. It's so cool.
I think that's such a great thing to base your game on is like follow the light, because that's the most natural gamer thing ever.
Right.
There's a long hallway and a door creaked open a bit with light coming out of it. You're like,
and you know that they put an enemy between you and the light because they're like jerks. Like so whenever I see the light, I'm like, it's more of like a warning.
Hammer Parsa says, one small neat detail I like is when you're reloading the shotgun, the barrel and the shells you remove and throw away, they have traces of smoke on them.
Oh.
That's cool. God,
I wouldn't notice that. I'm too busy screaming while I reload my shotgun.
I loved there is a VCR that you see early on, and it has like just a layer of dust on it that is so subtle. I'd never seen dust so subtle.
Oh my
Sarah.
God, Remedy, you did it again!
No one can do it.
Oh, they're geniuses!
Did you see the dust?
Did you see the dust? Has any game developer thought about adding dust to their VCRs like that? Oh my God.
They're not made.
Truly, we're in an era of new games.
I love that we have Sarah to humble us because we are being such Remedy, like,
Totally
obsessed people, and we need Sarah here to be like, calm down. It's just some dust.
Snakeo in the chat says, what does the dust mean?
Was there something written in the dust? Is it a character from Control?
Oh my God. I want to run my fingers in and make a little Ocean View hotel spiral.
No.
Harrison D writes in and says, as someone who grew up in rural Washington and now lives in New York City, the game environments are really speaking to me. I can't believe how authentic and detailed the spaces feel, from particular sounds and foliage of the Washington forest to the warped but distinctly New York fine details of the streets or subway tunnels. I can't get over the level of detail poured into every inch of the game space and how lived in the spaces feel. Velas writes in, this is a more general thought, but is the Pacific Northwest the perfect setting for a horror game? Some might say swamp, but there you're always on edge. Pacific Northwest has the advantage of being idyllic in the daytime and very spooky at night. Grandeur becomes horror as the shadows fall. The lush, verdant mosses and ferns become slick pockets of rustling shadows. Keep your flashlight handy,
Alan
friends.
Wake, I see you.
We respect you, Alan.
What if Sam Lake said, I've never seen Twin Peaks?
What are you guys talking about? Come on. Let's see, who wrote in about this? So Jared Pierce says, the game wears its influences on its sleeves, perhaps never more obviously than having the diner's layout match the R&R diner from Twin Peaks exactly, down to the waitress wearing the same outfit. But despite this and many other instances of similarities, it never feels like a ripoff of what has come before. In fact, it feels like displaying these influences so plainly is being used to strengthen the theme of blurring the lines between fiction and reality.
I agree.
So see, Sarah, it being derivative, even that's good.
Oh my God. I feel like it's like people who like Twin Peaks are so obsessed with Twin Peaks, they're like begging to see it in every other art form. And obviously it's actually in this one, and I'm so happy for you. But like, there are other things out there.
Name one.
Yeah,
they don't exist.
I hope they copy every scene of Twin Peaks and make it this game. That would be
and it would be incredible. Industry disruptors.
Where 320 says, I find it unrealistic and jarring to have every building you can walk into have terrible lighting with half the lights either off or burned out. That is unrealistic. The dark place always has great lighting. Come on. That's just realism 101. Mighty Ethan says, what do y'all think about the use of comedy in this game? I'm surprised, and not in a bad way, by how much of it there is in what is otherwise a very tense and sometimes downright scary game. From Saga commenting that people need to stop littering when you find your first fuse, to the ridiculous ads, it's really working for me, and I wondered if others felt the same.
There was that note that you find by the witch's house by that person who was like, my crush is moving. I told her that I like got all my bravery together. And I told her that I liked her, and she said thanks. And then it just said in all caps, I'm going to kill myself. Or like, I wish I had died on the spot. And I was like, oh, so felt. So seen, so felt.
I think they're so good at the little skit comedy things. Like, they've mastered that. And I only got to see a couple of the Threshold Kids one in Control. But that was one of the things I got clipped from my stream was just the no interruption scream from one of the puppets.
Right.
I had to take a beat. I was crying. And I don't think I've laughed that hard at a game in 10 years. It was so funny. And that's just good writers.
Yeah, it never feels like it's trying to be weird. It feels like it is legitimately just weird. That's fun to interact with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, do you want to combine your two favorite things? Luke Tucker writes in and says, I'm really oh, sorry, did you have a guess?
No, please.
Luke says, I'm really loving how Remedy is holding nothing back in terms of what they're presenting here. The greenish tint of the live action scenes are giving a very Matrix feel when they talk about and then they also talk about the Matrix films in here. The sense of, here's all the things we love, but filtered through our own characters and mystery. It's really bold, blatant, and somehow not derivative at all. I'm constantly thinking of Brad Pitt at the end of Inglourious Bastards with, this might just be my masterpiece, says Luke. And then Dylan Cabert in with a similar thing, saying, as a fellow Matrix fan, Ben...
You are caricatures of yourselves.
Yeah.
Do you people like other things? Have you watched new media?
Yeah, but have you ever seen The Matrix? It is pretty sweet. I don't know if we need anything else. It's pretty good. So Dylan K says, as a fellow Matrix fan, Ben, the world is a Matrix fan, everyone but Sarah, did you notice the fact that when you're exploring a saga and come back to Casey, he delivers the lines... Anderson, welcome back. Almost exactly in the Agent Smith cadence.
I'm pog jumping.
I need people to know that it's 11 p.m. right now. So if we're getting a little loopy, that's why.
Yeah, it's a dark place outside. Okay, here's one. Might be too weird. Clayton M says, I checked out the vending machine on the way down to the morgue, and I noticed that the bags of chips on the top row were the house brand from the UK grocery store chain Tesco. Some of the candy was recognizably the Cadbury brand, sold in the US, but primarily it's from the UK. My question is, did everyone see British snacks? Or is it just because I'm playing a British version of the game that they put British snacks in this vending machine?
Oh, we have Cadbury in Canada, so I didn't...
We have it here too, but they're saying I guess it's more of a British brand.
Oh, okay.
In the Control DLC, AWE, there's a vending machine that's an altered object that gives you whatever you desire.
Oh my God.
Maybe the person desired Tesco chips.
There it is.
Sarah's giving a nodding and thumbs upping. Yes,
she's
Sarah,
thumbs upping harder than she's ever done it.
She just loves the connected universe so much.
HD writes in and says, I haven't quite finished this section yet, but I have to mention what is possibly the worst and most cruel bug I've ever experienced in a game. One of the excellent title cards for a chapter did not appear. The title cards are half the reason I play Remedy's games. Yeah, that's unforgivable. Yeah, I mean, bugs. We've alluded to it. I'm playing an Xbox. It's a little rough at times. I got stuck in the mine place once. It's the sink is off.
How do you think Alan feels?
Bo.
Can we end the podcast there? We just cut it off.
I would, but no, we're just getting started, actually.
Yeah, pretty buggy for me on PC too. Hopefully the patch helps. But yeah, every cutscene that's also a loading screen has really choppy, delayed audio, and a bunch of other little random crap that I don't know. I don't really care about.
Yeah,
it'll be fixed eventually, and the game will be good forever.
That's kind of how it works. Yeah. Let's see. Spencer-esque says, I'm starting to feel like the game is actually Alan Wake 2 and 3. The first game used Departure as a device, and this one is using both its apparent sequels to frame the two protagonist stories, with Initiation seemingly leading into Return. I wonder if this was an idea they came to as they were writing this game's story to draw a clear line between the two narratives, or if the stories were at any point intended to be a separate release. It's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to ask him, I guess. But it is interesting that they're kind of incorporating 2 of Alan Wake's books for the story of this one. Yeah.
It makes me wonder. I'm so curious to see how this ends up, because it feels like they're probably gonna do everything they want to do with Alan Wake in this one, right? They're not going to count on being able to make Alan Wake 3, right?
Can't imagine. Then again, Shenmue 3 was made, and I think it's just setting up Shenmue 4, so, who knows? Jacob writes in and says, Mr. Dorr referred to Alan's new books as part of the Hero's Journey trilogy. Mr. Dorr shows the first new book is Initiation, which is Alan's campaign, mentions the last book is Return, which is Saga's campaign, the Hero's Journey being a literary template that contains 3 parts, Departure, Initiation, and Return. Mr. Dorr is also the character that Dylan, Jesse's brother in Control, mentions can shift between worlds and denied his request to help him spread the hiss to other realities, presumably a very powerful character in the Remedy universe independent of Alan's writing.
Yeah, he can like multiverse hop and like do whatever he wants and run around.
Okay. That is,
He's
crazy. This is the fun thing about the universe, right? Is I guess like there are powerful people and objects, but then Alan Wake and his writing is just this all-powerful thing that is...
That's what I'm saying. This Alan guy is kind of ruining the game for me.
Okay.
The power creep is insane, yeah.
It's out of control. Let's see. Caboose MSG writes in and says, how many more unique dongs do we expect to see in Alan Wake 2?
Is there more
I don't know. That was like a pretty perfect one.
Yeah, it was a perfect dong. We all agree. It's,
I don't know if I want to follow that.
I haven't seen it. Really bummed.
I mean,
hey, new game
you can
plus.
show it on Twitch. It's technically art.
Yeah.
You can show it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Sarah.
It looks like Michelangelo's dong. Steven Z.
I've seen a bunch more dongs. You'll find them.
Okay.
They're collectibles.
All over the place, yeah.
Let's see. Amos Dragon writes in saying some of the animations are pretty stiff. We talked about that. Like even characters in town. It's like feels like they should be doing a little bit more. And at times this game looks so good. At other times it's like, okay, you can see a little bit of.
I mean, a budget
coming
has
through.
to exist.
It does. It was funded
I'm
by
not
Fortnite,
mad about
but
it.
yeah. I'm amazed that I saw Nick Chester, a developer who used to be at Epic. He left now, but he was posting something on Facebook about like. He's like, I was there for the pitch when Remedy came in and pitched this game in 2020. And I said, even if we can't make this game happen, I just want to make sure it does happen somewhere. And I was like, it is wild. Like this game was made surprisingly fast. I mean, maybe I'm just numb to game development these days, but it's like just hearing that like 2020 was the pitch and now this game's out the door. Like that feels like a miracle somehow.
Is fast.
And the confidence too to say it's 2023 all over the game. When those cutscenes were happening, I was like, wow, they knew they were going to hit 2023.
I wonder if they recorded alts just in case for 2024.
Yeah, maybe.
And now say 2024, 2025, 2026.
Yeah. Now say distant future.
Joseph Coleman wrote in talking about how beautiful the HDR is. Porn Curly wrote in saying, Remedy is the best there is at lighting. I remember Control having amazing lighting, but Alan Wake is wild. Just shining a flashlight up at a tree in the night looks phenomenal. I can't explain why it looks so good. It just does, Sarah. It just does.
Some Remedy magic right there.
Let's see. What else we got? What else is left in this big bin of wonderful comments over there in Patreon? A lot of Twin Peaks. Raleigh B says, I played Alan Wake Remastered for the first time 2 weeks ago in preparation for the Deepest Dive. Well, overall, I didn't like playing Alan Wake. I like the vibe and the story. The biggest thing I'm missing in Alan Wake 2 is the definitive episode thing. I loved turning on Alan Wake 1 and getting my previously on every new episode. Maybe I'm biased because I cut episode recaps for a living. What? Oh, that's cool. But does anyone else miss these? The songs feel out of place now when we pick them up immediately, even though the manuscript pages are labeled for the previous chapter.
See, I kind of thought it was like their take on TV now in the 2023 world versus TV in 2010. Because in 2010, they always did last time on blank. And now it's just like a song plays while the credits scroll a little bit. And then Netflix is like, next episode. Yeah. Like that's like how TV works now.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like, yeah, we're binging this. There's no like, we don't need a recap because Netflix knows we just watch the whole thing in one go anyways.
That's interesting.
I like that.
Steven Z says, although it seems to be way in the future, I skipped buying this game because of the lack of a physical release. I've been watching a walkthrough, but I find that the experience is only representative of a percentage of the game. It's hard to appreciate this way, since I have no control over anything. Yeah.
Get out of the comments. What are you doing here?
Yeah. You heard him, Steven. Go on, get. No, I get. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people out there that are bummed about the lack of physical release, but I forget if they've ruled it out now. They said maybe they'll get you in the future. I forget what their exact wording was for.
That'd be a good way for get me to buy this game twice. I guess.
Well, there we go. Anything else we haven't hit yet? Let's see.
Did we straightforwardly plug Haley and I played Control's AWE DLC? It's on our main channel.
Oh, no, yeah, we did. We did put that on the main channel. Yeah, so if you want to watch the Control DLC that ties into Alan Wake, that full playthrough is up on MinnMax's YouTube channel.
We didn't do every side mission, but we did like read a lot of the documents out loud.
Oh.
So if you are curious about some of those.
Sweet.
You don't want to read.
That's it. Haley, final thoughts?
More.
All right. Speaking of more, we will be coming back for part 2 and part 3 of the Deepest Dive on Alan Wake 2, but we have a big marathon charity stream coming up this weekend. It's going to be Saturday, November 4th. It is going to be on MinnMax's YouTube channel. We're raising money for Connections to Independence, helping foster kids in Minneapolis. And so you can tune in live. We have a ton of games to play, ton of guests we're rotating through, charity auctions at the top of every hour, including there's an Alan Wake 2 auction happening. So we truly have a ton of great stuff. We are auctioning off a Spider-Man 2 PS5, a ton of MinnMax stuff, a ton of Game Informer stuff, thanks to our friends over there. So the point is, because of that charity stream, we are not coming back next week for the second part of the Deepest Dive in Alan Wake 2. We're going to be coming back the week after that. So let's see. We're going to be collecting your comments on November 12th. November 12th, if you support us on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. November 12th, we'll have the post up looking for your comments for us to read on the show. So again, if we got something wrong during this discussion, if we missed a crucial thing, you're like, why aren't they talking about this? This is your opportunity to jump in and make us talk about it, please. And I'll sound better by then. So November 12th on Patreon, we're going to be talking about the next chunk of this game, which is going to be play through Initiation 6 and Return 6. That means you can swap between characters, Alan and Saga, a couple of times. You don't have to stick with one character. So play through Initiation 6 and Return 6. Return 6, Scratch is the name of that chapter. And just to be confusing, Initiation 6, Return is the name of that chapter. So just remember, finish the sixes, and then submit your comment for the Deepest Dive. We cannot thank everybody enough who supports this format over on Patreon, everybody who jumped in there, submitted a comment for us to read, everybody who unlocked the podcast version of this in that bonus podcast feed, which also has ad-free early versions of the MinnMax show, all of our interviews, Max spoilers. If you want to hear Sarah and Haley talk about Baldur's Gate for hours and hours, a ton more is in there. And again, if you support MinnMax on Patreon at any tier through November 1st, we will just send you a free Steam code for Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals. So I will never be able to speak again. And so as a tip of the cap, if you want to jump in at that $2 tier and support this show, you get a code for Oxenfree 2. Yeah, please do. All right, that's it. Jeffem, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Ready to play more.
Sarah, how you doing there, champ?
I'm doing good. I don't want people to think that I don't like the game. I do like the game, but I just don't pick up on all this extra stuff that you people do.
You gotta go back and see that VCR, Sarah.
I gotta go look at the dust.
Incredible.
I'm enjoying it at like the front base level that it is for me.
Perfect. No, that's why you're here. We love it. Haley, thank you for doing your homework above and beyond anybody else. You nailed it.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Absolutely. Leo?
What can you say?
Leo? I'll tell you what I can say is a video popped up in my YouTube feed recommendation thing, and it was you at Remedy for the Control cover story trip at Game Informer. And I had a moment of like, oh, I forgot that Leo went to Remedy for a Control cover story trip.
One of the coolest studios I ever visited and one of the weirdest rapid fires we ever did. The dynamic is hilarious going back.
Were you doing the rapid fire? I forgot that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
with Mikhail Kasurinin,
Yeah.
director of
He's
Control.
like really
He's
like low-key guy, right?
super dry Finnish bloke. Watching the jokes we wrote hit him is flabbergasting for all parties.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much for watching The Deepest Dive, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the best most discussion about Alan Wake 2 on the internet. Any help sharing gets appreciated. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the next chunk of Alan Wake 2. Thank you, everybody.
Did you know that you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every single week by supporting us at the $5 tier on Patreon? You don't have to listen through the browser or anything dumb like that. You'll get access to a private RSS feed if you support us on Patreon. You put it in your favorite podcast app, and then bam, you can listen to our weekly bonus podcast Party Chat, the podcast versions of The Deepest Dives, MinnMax interviews, Max spoilers, and you get the MinnMax Show podcast a day earlier than everybody else. So please help support independent games media. Head over to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's.